deceptive marketing targeting young people. More and more countries are offering incentives in exchange for vaccinations.
Greece is just the latest country announcing an incentive as it looks to speed up its COVID vaccine rollout. About a third of Greece's population have gotten both doses. Now, young people, authorities say, will be paid to get the shot. 18 to 25-year-olds who do will receive €150, worth about $180 in the form of credit on a digital wallet. It's a more low-tech prize in parts of West Java, Indonesia, which is giving away chickens. In Moscow, there's the chance to win a car, and for the vaccinated in Hong Kong, cash prizes, as well as a lottery for a $1.4 million apartment.
You can't win if you don't enter, and you actually can improve your chances of winning a prize drawing if you wrinkle up your entry blank. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com, and I speak from experience. Why this works: if they'll be spinning the drum before drawing, your entry blank will move around more than, and not adhere to, other perfectly flat entry blanks. And if they don't spin the drum and merely reach into a box full of other perfectly flat entry blanks, many of which are sticking together, yours will feel different to the person reaching in. When you win, act surprised. And if you're looking for work, this is a metaphor. For more tips on sticking out in a world where just too much blends into the blah, 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 hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Republicans back a plan for universal lawn care. And an RC car works up the courage to approach a group of girls. And now a recap of the week's news for those who like to waste their summers surfing the internet. Fall, the long-running series of shorter days and cooler nights, was canceled this week after nearly 3 billion seasons on Earth. The classic period of the year, which once occupied the coveted slot between summer and winter, will be replaced by new stifling humidity levels and near-constant sunshine. A shiny, bobbing object in the water is generating fascination among members of the fish community, who have described it as pleasingly wiggly and minnow-esque. Aquatic experts say that decisive action must be taken against the object very soon. In local news, just when 27-year-old Andrew Sheets didn't think his vacation could get any better, a rerun of Spin City came on. And in other headlines, a bee stuck between the screen and front door is going nuts. And a water skier lets go of the crossbar to greet those not currently water skiing.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, coming at you from the first day of Forkfest, the officially unofficial first day of Forkfest. I don't know how to characterize it because there's nothing official about Forkfest, but June the 28th is the day that we've been pushing as the start of Forkfest for the last year, basically. So is this... But to some people, Forkfest started on June the 21st, which was when I arrived, and for some people it started on June the 18th.
Well, technically, you can declare any time or place Forkfest with equal authority. So, I mean...
Yes. I mean, it's weird, and I'm not sure how things are going to shape out. From what I've been hearing, a lot of people are planning to leave on Wednesday. But also,
yeah, it sounds like it.
A lot of people are also planning to come back this weekend. So I don't know exactly how things are going to shake out, but I'm interested to see it. And I've been talking with people about the prospects for next year, and from what I can gather, it was actually Sean who runs Let's Get Loaded Fries. He actually had 4 food trucks here this year about what we should do. And there's still a pre-party here at the campground every single year. People show up, like the weekend before. Mm-hmm. And that party has no name. It's just people showing up early, hanging out, starting to get set up, and having a good time. Then there's the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and then there's Forkfest, which happens a week after.
Maybe we should fork Forkfest from Somalia Fest and have the pre-Pork Fest party, Somalia Fest, and the post-Pork Fest party, which I don't recommend saying 10 times fast, be Forkfest.
That's exactly what Sean suggested, and I really like the idea. I think that's probably the most effective way of doing it, which would put Forkfest next year as being June the 18th through July the 30th. That's the Wednesday after. After that, the normal people start, the non-libertarians start coming in, and the vibe changes. Suddenly, things start going missing occasionally and stuff like that. The campground isn't as clean because the libertarians here are notoriously good at cleaning up behind themselves. Well,
we believe in ownership of our property, which means that if you leave something behind, you are responsible for that.
Yes. So the vibe changes after Wednesday, and it becomes just different. This year, there's no live music to, culminate the end of Fork Fest, as it were. And it just seems like it may be a better idea because we're also going to be working more closely with the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year to create the biggest and best festival that we can. And it seems like we can work with them to have both the pre-party and the after-party, both of them just sort of called Fork Fest because that's probably the simplest way of doing it, and categorizing Fork Fest as something that occurs from June the 18th through June the 30th. But I don't know. I'm still talking with people about it, and it's going to come down to what do people want, Because, it's not really what they want. What are people doing, I guess, is the most important thing. Because
are you coming up here early or not? And are you staying past Wednesday or not?
And it seems like most people came up here early, and most people are not staying past Wednesday. So let's capitalize on that in the way that a good anarchist would, and let's say, all right, well, those are our dates then, because that's when we're going to be there. So let's promote that, the pre-party and the after-party. That's what I'm leaning toward right now. Of course, I'm not in charge of this. I'm just, one of the ones who's going to be promoting the dates over the next year, but anyone can set the dates, as you said, to be whatever they want.
Well, if you do that, I might just decide to create an entirely new event called Somalia Fest that takes place after Fork Fest until the 4th of July.
You're more than welcome to. There used to be a Spork Fest. I think last year Spork Fest happened prior to the Porcupine Freedom Festival. But the way all of this started, we talked about it the other day, and I'm pleased to announce that although there were some issues between myself and Carla Garrick, she actually approached me the other night. Saturday night, in fact, we buried the hatchet, and we're back on good terms again, as long as I don't make any more donations to any of her campaigns under the auspices of the Reformed Satanic Church.
A reasonable request, I think.
It's reasonable, sure, and, I'll admit, I did that to troll. I love to say, I was just donating money to her Senate campaign. Or her representative campaign. I don't even remember what the hell she was running for now, but it was intentional and by design to do it from the Reformed Satanic Church instead of from Aria Di Mezzo.
There was an intentional dig there.
It's like the best kind of passive aggression, in my opinion, is when you can do something that's genuinely nice to someone and it just pisses them off. To me, that's peak passive aggressiveness. And if I'm known for anything, it's being fairly passive-aggressive. So, I'm not going to lie. I did that, intentionally to troll her. But it was also, as I said, to characterize it, hey, I have no hard feelings towards you, but I'm still going to troll you because that's what I do. But anyway, it was an awesome time, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, It was amazing. Saturday night was amazing for me because I ended up judging the rant competition, the soapbox idol competition. And I didn't expect that. I was just there prior to the thing, and Carla approached me. I was like, hey, do you want to be my third judge? I was like, sure, why not? And that was when we sort of buried the hatchet. But at my first Porcupine Freedom Festival 4 years ago, everyone became aware of me when I did soapbox idol competition. Everyone thought I won that year. I didn't. I actually placed second, but the rant was
that was the was that the LGBT rant that you did then?
It was.
Nice.
And then 4 years later, or 3 years later, this is my fifth Fork Fest, but it's my fourth year. If that makes any sense, it all gets very confusing in my head.
That same here. This is my fourth Pork Fest because my initial experience of New Hampshire was Pork Fest, but that means I've been here for 3 years.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, wait a minute. If this is my fifth Porcupine Freedom Festival, then that means I came here 2 years with Will Coley and then went back to Mississippi, but I didn't. I only did that for 1 year, so I had to sit back and actually think about how all of this crap works. And I was like, okay, yes, 4 years ago was my first one, but this is my fifth one. And that's hard to figure out on the fly.
Yeah, you lost me.
Yeah, it's all very confusing. But Thomas Knapp is going to be joining us at some point today, and I'm really excited to talk to him because he's just about the only libertarian I knew from back before Call to Freedom, back before Free Talk Live, and back before my first Porcupine Freedom Festival. He was the one who saw Aria DiMezzo go from this random person writing a blog at anarchistgmail.com to someone sitting next to Tom Woods and Jeremy Kauffman judging this event at the largest Porcupine Freedom Festival in history. Mm-hmm. And it's just been amazing to be a part of that. I mean, really, to have had all of this happen for me. I mean, it was a moment of pride sitting up there, judging this competition that just 3 years ago, see, I'm already confused again. 4 years ago, I don't recall. I was, no one knew who I was, and I was just this random trans person stepping up onto the soapbox to do a rant. And it's been a fun 4 years.
And definitely a great point, because either this is something that is not your choice, in which case you can't be proud of it, or it is something that's your choice, in which case you have a whole other set of problems.
Well, that wasn't even what my rant was about. It was just about it was about what the people are arguing about now. Another trans person told me, you were actually ahead of the curve on this by several years, because I was ranting about essentially the presence of kink at LGBTQ pride parades and how they're openly sexualized when, to me, it's about trying to live your life peacefully. You can't argue that what people do in the bedroom is their own business if you're taking that and you're putting it out in the streets.
That is a good point.
For the entire world to see. And look, I know people who walk around in Keene wearing leashes and collars and stuff like that. It's not common, but I do know people, and they shouldn't be shamed for that, no. But is that really how the LGBTQ community wants to present themselves to the world, as people to be treated as equals? To me, it's not a good message, and kink I don't see in any way being related to LGBTQ issues.
I mean, I can see why people would conflate them, but those are definitely different things.
More coming up from ForkFest. You can still join us. We're here until July the 4th. Forkfest.party is the website. One more time, that's forkfest.party. It's Free Talk Live.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Free Talk Live.
Rights are inherent because we're humans, and they're a good idea that we respect among one another. Look, I mean, I believe in the I believe in your right to defend yourself. So if you want to,
don't you believe in the right as a country to defend our borders?
Collectives don't have rights. Only individuals have rights.
No, we have right as a collective, as a country.
No, I don't think that you can grant something to a collective that you don't have yourself. So you don't have the right to, put a gun to my head and take money from me, right?
No, certainly not.
Okay, well then you wouldn't have the ability to grant that to a collective. You wouldn't have, you and 10 other people getting together wouldn't be able to create a collective right to put a gun to my head and take my money, would you?
Then what do we have government for?
I don't know, man. It's something we've been saddled with for a long time, and I think it's about time that we end it.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from the first day of Fork Fest, June the 28th. I'm joined now by
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Chris.
And I'm Arya, for those who somehow didn't know that. I didn't think to say that. Now, we were just talking off the air about the Porcupine Freedom Festival and the massive crowd that it had, and we're not sure what's going to happen with Fork Fest because we don't sell tickets. I could go up to the office and ask, well, what sort of reservations do you have for this week coming up? And, they would give me a general idea, but I kind of like to be surprised. I don't see that information wouldn't have any real value to me, except to spout it on the air, and I don't really care that much. People will show up, people will leave, there will be someone here.
I mean, you get bragging rights, but that's not worth tracking people over.
But we were just talking about how, the Porcupine Freedom Festival had hit 85% of its, or Rogers Campground had hit 85% capacity Thursday night. Mm-hmm. Friday night, more people arrived. Saturday, even more people arrived. I mean, the place was packed. Yeah. I haven't seen that many libertarians in one place in my entire life.
Right.
And we were talking about a lot of people, it's always a hot issue here. Oh, someone needs to buy Rogers Campground, but no one is doing it. And I am at my wit's end for people sitting here saying, we should buy this place. Well, put a plan together and buy the place.
So there's a couple of problems with that, actually. So people have tried to buy it, actually. And some of the issues are that there's certain documentation that has not been kept on Rogers Campground. Taxes and things like that have been paid, but because that documentation has been kept, you can't get a mortgage on it.
I am aware of that.
Even the people who have the money to put the down payment on it can't buy it as a result, and they're also asking too much.
You're thinking in terms of, let's take out a loan from the bank for $1.5 million and buy the place. There were 3,000 libertarians here Saturday. No one put any effort into saying, hey, we're creating a fundraiser to buy this place so that we can keep doing this. Instead of, what the future holds, which is someone else is going to end up owning this place.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. But if you spread that out across 3,000 libertarians, it's not as much money. But no one's interested in doing that.
It's not, but
They just want to keep freaking talking about how someone needs to buy this place. It should be us. Okay, then do it.
Look, there's been serious efforts.
No, there hasn't. There's been serious conversation, but no one has done a damn thing except Mark Edge. And
Yes.
that's who you're referring to. He's the only one who's
Yes.
put in any
Yes.
effort into actually acquiring
There
this
were
place.
talks, there were negotiations. They twice, I believe, and it just they couldn't come up with what needed to happen because of the paperwork. That was entirely paperwork.
The paperwork is only meaningful if you're trying to take out a loan from the bank in order to buy the place. Are you telling me there aren't enough libertarians with Bitcoin that they could just cash out and buy this place? I'm almost positive there are.
I think the answer to that is that it could have been purchased. However, do you throw all your money into a place that's not making enough money, and what's the risk and all these other factors? And there are a lot of people with cryptocurrency, and they do have a bit of wealth, but how many of them are dedicated hardcore libertarians who moved to New Hampshire and for the migration movement?
Well, it's difficult to say. And look, I'm not trying to say that someone should cash out all of their Bitcoin and buy Rogers Campground or anything like that, but cashing out one of your Bitcoins for some of these people.
One Bitcoin is what, $40,000 right now at most. So it's not enough to buy Rogers Campground.
No, but you only need 20 people to do that. And I guarantee you that there were 20 libertarians here who had at least 3 or 4 Bitcoin.
Is that right? Is that math right?
Yeah, that would come out to about $2.5 million, I think.
And what was it, $3 million they were asking for the campground?
No, it was like $1.5 million.
Oh, yeah, you might be right. Okay, maybe it could be done.
I'm just saying the means are certainly here. I mean, the fundraising options are certainly here. All it takes is someone to actually develop a plan and put it into action, and no one wants to do that. They just want to sit.
Are you ready to put down your
No, I made it clear I'm not going to,
Bitcoin?
but I'm not one of the ones sitting here saying we should buy this place.
So we are way too close to when I'm asleep for me to be doing math on my own. So I use my handy dandy pocket rock. So 40K times 20 is just $800,000.
Okay, so we would need 40 people instead. But there were still more.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. So they were asking what, 1.5 for this place?
I believe so.
All right, hang on. I will use my handy dandy shiny rock.
At any rate, you don't necessarily need 40 people selling one Bitcoin in order to make it happen, because libertarians are notoriously not limited to just Bitcoin. The means are certainly there, right? The issue is just that everyone wants to talk. No one wants to do. And that's the issue you run into libertarians all throughout the United States. They want to sit there and talk on Facebook. They don't want to actually do anything to help the cause of liberty. And that's one of the reasons I get so frustrated when I hear people saying, we should buy Rogers Campground. Yeah, well, go post on Facebook about it. Because you saying that is every bit as helpful as going on Facebook and posting about how much you wish.
I have to say, I'm not quite so cynical. I recognize that it could still happen, and it's sometimes good things take time.
It certainly could still happen, and I'm not saying it won't, but it won't happen if people keep saying we need to buy Rogers Campground instead of saying, okay, I'm going to develop this plan, and I'm not going to be the one to do it. I have no interest in doing it. To me, whether or not someone else buys Rogers Campground and they're like, no, we don't want the festivals happening here, fine. We'll find a different place to do our festivals at. I'm not emotionally...
That sounds a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, it does.
I mean...
Not really. I mean, if you can say, hey, look, we want to bring in 500 people to have a festival, and all of these are paying customers, no one's going to say no to that.
I mean, you have to develop the infrastructure, and
there are plenty of campgrounds in New Hampshire, Chris.
Not large enough, though. And that's the problem.
Okay, well,
Rogers is the largest campground in New Hampshire, which is why it's here.
Right.
It has been held at smaller campgrounds in the past when the event was smaller.
Then it will just have to be a smaller event if no one buys Rogers and the next owners are hostile to the freedom movement. I'm not emotionally tied to Rogers Campground or the 3,000 attendee Porcupine Freedom Festival.
I don't think anybody is emotionally tied to Rogers Campground specifically. And to be honest, I don't even know this is that great of a campground. It's dilapidated. Things are falling apart. It needs a lot of work. I mean, they can't even the water systems can't handle the 1,400 people that we've had in past years. It certainly is not going to be able to handle the 3,000.
I would argue it's the best campground for this, not because of the infrastructure or anything like that, but because it has some of the most lax administrators and owners that you can find out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Crosby basically lets people do whatever the hell they want.
I think the part of that, though, is also the financial incentives, right? Like, let's be real. Even if somebody hates us, when we bring in 3,000 people and you're the primary festival for and bring the
Keep
primary...
in mind, you were just arguing that it's going to be hard to find another campground for a festival.
Well,
So
no,
now you're
I'm
saying
absolutely arguing that because, like, number one, we're loud.
In New Hampshire. New Hampshire, I'm talking about.
Number two, I mean, while we do generate a lot of business for some of the businesses of Lancaster, there are plenty of people in Lancaster that I'm sure just dread this every year.
Yeah, but they don't matter. The only person who matters is the one who owns the campground.
So the reason that it would continue either way is because basically Porkfest and Forkfest are the fun. The tax revenue from this town is mostly Rogers Campground. So take that into account, and then take into account that whoever owns this property, if they're not bringing in the revenue from Porkfest and Forkfest, this campground goes down. It's no longer financially feasible to maintain this campground.
Well, and it does matter what a town thinks, because otherwise they get together people and start acting politically to get you out.
Fair points. More coming up from Forkfest 2021. It's officially unofficial. Come join us at Rogers Campground. We're here until July the 4th. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your AMP will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you AMP Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, ordinarily talk radio that you control, but we are off-site at Rogers Campground for Fork Fest 2021. We're here until July the 4th. It's disheartening to see a lot of people leaving. A lot of people are staying, of course, and, we're expecting more people to show up throughout the weekend. The Porcupine Freedom Festival was like this as well. Monday, there were very few people here. Tuesday, there were more. Wednesday, there was more. Well, this is Monday, so we would expect this to be the lowest turnout. However, it seems that a lot of people are planning to leave on Wednesday. I gotta say, though, the only people I'm not upset to see gone are those annoying Bitcoin maximalists that sat right there and ran their mouths 7 hours every single day about a subject that they know nothing about.
You know what's funny about that is I didn't really see that too much, but I've heard from other people, and they got called out like constantly by like other people. It was pretty funny, I thought.
Which is good. I was strongly considering grabbing the microphone at one point because they have a live Q&A session at the end. I sincerely thought about going up there and just grilling these people because they were Bitcoin maximalists, huge advocates of the Lightning Network, which, from what I can tell, is pretty much the sign of a Bitcoin maximalist. If they say, "Oh, Lightning Network," okay, yep, you're a maxi, and you're probably dumb.
You know what's interesting
not
is
dumb, but uninformed and not very well versed in cryptocurrency.
A lot of what I've noticed is a lot of people who are like Bitcoin maximalists, or I wouldn't say that. But Lightning Coin fans have actually, at least in our community, have actually been like, oh yeah, I'll accept, Monero, I'll accept Bitcoin Cash, I'll accept Dash. So it's kind of interesting because it seems like a lot of the people who are not in New Hampshire who are Lightning Coin or Lightning Network fans are more so the type that have never accepted cryptocurrency, they've never spent cryptocurrency, they've never used it, even though they're advocating for the Lightning Network, which the whole point of is to re-enable people to be able to spend Bitcoin.
It was really fascinating hearing them talk. I was talking with someone who had actually gone up and grabbed the microphone from them. That was Mo, by the way, for those who didn't know.
Good. Yeah. Good for him.
And I said, it sounds to me like none of these people have ever actually bought or sold anything for cryptocurrency. And he said, yeah, well, you're exactly right. I tried to buy a cup of coffee from one of them, and they couldn't get it to work. So that's the level of expertise people are dealing with as they sat there listening to these guys. Or they're people who don't know how to accept or send an actual transaction.
I was talking to one of them, and I was kind of being facetious with them. I was like, hey, yeah, I support surveillance coins. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you have an event where 3/4 of the people are from out of state. You're going to get a certain amount of people who are coming not because they want to move to New Hampshire as part of the migration movement, but basically because they want to make a buck off of, what all the awesome stuff we've got.
Well, I mean, going on. Not for nothing. I came here to make money, and I'm up a little bit.
There's nothing wrong with making money. I'm not saying there is, but that's not really why we're here. In the grand scheme of things,
Well, I mean, we are. I think we're here to.
I'm here for freedom. I don't know why you're here.
Yeah, but freedom means that I have the right to do what I want, and I've achieved these.
And
things.
Part of that is capitalism, but part of it's also other stuff. And if all you care about is capitalism, I can.
No. It's not like I put that at the top of my list. I came here to have fun, right?
Right, me too.
But and making some money was fun.
Absolutely, same here.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know.
But they're just about the money part,
right?
And that's the difference,
Yeah.
I don't know why they were here, except I've never even heard of these people. I've got their pamphlet here because someone invited me over there, and I listened to them the first day and wrote them off almost immediately. I don't know who Joe Saz or Tony Vase are. They're people I've never heard of. And I'm one of the Crypto Six. So how influential or knowledgeable can these people really be?
Everybody starts from somewhere, so I'm not going to write them off because of that. But I am going to start writing them off when they start saying stuff like, they've never actually used the Lightning Network, or they've never used Bitcoin, or like and they have no plans to move up here or anything. Like, how much do they really care about freedom? How much do they really care about the things?
Well,
that
they were paid to be here apparently by some company called Embly or something like
and
that.
That's the other thing. It's like they're here because somebody's paying them to be here, right? And they're not from here. They're not planning to move here. They're just
I don't mind a cryptocurrency advocate who's not in New Hampshire as long as they're advocating the use and encouraging the use of cryptocurrency. But I literally listen to them shout people down for suggesting currencies that are actually usable in the real world.
Right.
They hated on Monero. They hated on Bitcoin Cash. Like Mo offered $5 in Bitcoin Cash to anyone who would open up their wallet. And one of these characters, one of these maxis, immediately said into the microphone, "All of you people who raised your hands, you just sold out your principles for $5."
They're paid shills, man. What do you expect?
But paid shills for who? They're not paid shills. They're Bitcoin maximalists who someone handed a microphone.
Didn't you just say that they're being paid by some company?
Yes, and I just looked it up.
I mean, that sounds like a paid shill to me.
I just looked up Embly, and they're actually a Visa card. They're saying it's the easiest way to trade, and you can use it on all the big like Amazon, Netflix, and that sort of thing.
Speaking of trading, they did a panel Friday at 11 a.m. called "Trading Bitcoin" with Tony Vase and Joe Saz. Can you imagine listening to two people who don't know how to spend cryptocurrency doing a panel on trading Bitcoin?
Yeah.
But what can you do except, counter their arguments? And of course, that's what Free Talk Live does. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. The closest I would come to being any sort of maximalist would be a Monero maximalist, but I'm not even that. I'm a cryptocurrency maximalist. I'm not even that because I like the gold backs just as much as I do cryptocurrency.
I invested some gold backs while I was here, and it's great. It was very receptive to a lot of the vendors here, and I'm going to carry it through to the next event, Jackalope. And so I can't wait because I guess they were primed last year with the goldbacks. And they're going to be seeing a bunch of New Hampshire goldbacks down there.
Yeah, the goldbacks are cool. I'm like definitely, I don't want to say I'm a Bitcoin. I'm certainly not a maximalist because a maximalist will refuse to use anything else. But I have to say, well,
not necessarily. Chris Reitman, who used to host the show, describes himself as a Bitcoin maximalist.
He's not.
But he will accept other.
Even if he I've never heard him describe himself as that. But even if he is, he's not because he accepts other cryptocurrencies.
Yes, but he immediately converts them back into Bitcoin.
Okay, all right. It still doesn't sound like a maximalist to me. He's a maximalist.
Well, he describes himself as a maximalist, and I'm not going to argue with him about whether or not he's a maximalist.
That's fair. I don't know. And that's the thing. In New Hampshire, it seems like even the people who might be Bitcoin maximalists are willing to accept other cryptocurrencies.
Well, they're not going to turn away paying customers.
Sure, I like Monero, and I'll say I like Monero too. I like privacy coins, but at the same time, I recognize that our infrastructure is not there to support merchants accepting Monero. So
it is though. Last year I was the only person here who was spending Monero.
I spent a little bit of Monero this year and last year, but. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But the thing is, until you have the merchant integration for it, it's hard to spend with
This has been a sore point for me because the AnyPay people had Monero logos all over their office, yet their protocol, the ones that's relied upon most heavily here at ForkFest and in Keene and in Portsmouth, doesn't support Monero. So I would almost make the argument that AnyPay, at least in regard to using privacy coins, has been holding us back.
It's
notwithstanding the awesome, incredible work they've done.
So there's reasons for that go beyond their ability. They unfortunately it's much so. All right, so obviously that Monero is very different than Bitcoin and forks of Bitcoin because it's a totally different code base, and so there's some complications there. And some of the things that AnyPay has been forced to do because of legal reasons has put us in that situation. This isn't them, and they've been saying they want to add Monero back, but it's a huge undertaking effectively. So it's in some sense, it is holding us back, but it's also government really.
Sure.
And there's not going to be, unless you have an intermediary with the resources and time and energy and competent developers to actually build a platform that can support Monero. It's going to be a challenge because most merchants,
I don't even see how that's necessary. Just have the business owner open up their Edge wallet or whatever,
and that works fine.
And generate an XMR.
Let's
code.
go back to why AnyPay exists in the first place.
I don't think we're really going to have time to get into it, but it was to be a payment platform to make things easier for people.
If you don't want to give your employees access to the cash drawer, that's what AnyPay solves.
What I'm not hearing here is the pirate coin. What do you guys think about R? You laugh, but.
There's a million different coins. I can't possibly have opinions on all of them.
Sure, but I hear a lot of more talk with pirate coin than Monero here.
It seems like another shill kind of coin.
More coming up from Fork Fest. We're Free Talk Live.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Pork Fest here at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. And I got to say, I love being here. I love Pork Fest, but I'm in this weird position of also just tremendously looking forward to the end. of Forkfest because I will be returning to Keene. And if you go to freetalklive.com, you'll see that I just created a blog post about it. That will be the celebrated return of Arya and Ian doing Free Talk Live together in the same studio again. And there's going to be a Freer Talk Live after Free Talk Live.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so technically Freer Talk Live is Free Talk Live. It's just broadcast on different platforms. That's just the nickname we gave what is basically just an internet-only version of Free Talk Live.
FCC unregulated version.
Yeah, but it's still Free Talk Live. So I ran that by my attorney. I was like, look, it's not broadcast on terrestrial radio, but it's still Free Talk Live, so this is covered, right? Waiting to hear back from him because it's all very confusing and the definitions and terminology is just very important, evidently.
Yeah, dot your I's, cross your T's.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be July the 5th. It'll happen live, so that will be probably our second return to live shows because, Sunday is the last day of Forkfest. I'm not going to try to delude anyone into thinking that we're going to somehow pre-record a live show while also taking everything down and preparing to leave so that we don't get charged for another day or any of that other nonsense. July the 5th, I'm tremendously looking forward to it. It's great to be here, and it's great to see so many people here, and I'm thrilled. You mentioned Pirate Coin or something like that. Yeah. There were representatives of them here, right? Weren't they down there doing Pirates of the Caribbean
they got that
every
big
night?
movie screen, and
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was kind of funny. Is that
didn't they show the same movie every single night?
They showed all the Pirates of the Caribbean.
There's a series, yeah.
And, I know there's like 4 movies.
Here's another reason
this
why
what I was going to bring up.
Yeah,
I was going to bring it up.
Okay, go for it.
It was that. It was just really funny because they called Pirate Coin, but they bought the rights to the movie, and I was like. I asked them, like, hey,
that's embarrassing.
Well, I might be able to get you, like, pirated versions of Pirates of the Caribbean. And they're like, no.
They clearly don't know this audience.
Maybe they should announce that they bought the rights.
Yeah, right?
They actually bought from Disney the rights to broadcast
I think they did the licensing thing so as if they were a theater.
Right.
And so they...
Well, that's buying the rights, not the exclusive rights. But they bought the rights to basically just play the movie for...
That. Yep.
At least...
What cowards, man.
I know, right?
Do they think there's going to be a Disney rep running around here in the audience? Oh, my goodness. You can't do that.
Yeah, this is the place to be afraid about people reporting you and everything.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. And they're the ones who are shilling Pirate Coin. I don't know about this now.
This is what I'm talking about. Like, these are not our people.
They're certainly not. And, they're a fork of Zcash. There's hundreds of forks, if not thousands of Zcash.
There's Zen, there's Hush, there's a bunch of them. And they have the privacy turned on by defaults, too. Or there isn't a non-private option for them. So,
right.
Yeah, so... plenty of other better options, I think, than Pirate Coin.
Between choosing Pirate Coin and Hush, I would go with Hush simply because I know the developers behind Hush.
Yeah,
and,
that makes sense.
That goes a long way.
Yeah, either Zen or Pirate probably, or I'm sorry, Zen or Hush, not Pirate.
Horizon is also a good choice. I haven't spoken with the Horizon developers in quite some time. It's probably been 3 years, but they were good people and they believed in privacy, and that's the important thing here.
Yeah, it's not really that's not like a real privacy coin, but they had some. It was better at the time,
right?
Sure.
Yeah, they created infrastructure around it to create more privacy, but it's not really. I don't think it's fully secured like this.
That was one of the weird things I heard from the Maxis, actually, when someone mentioned Monero. That was like, well, how do you know? What if they discover a glitch that magically makes all of this supposedly hidden information available? I was like, okay, then in that case, it's no better than Bitcoin,
right?
But it's not any worse than Bitcoin.
Yep.
And they will immediately patch it and fix it. So. Sure, that thing can happen. I believe it actually did happen at one point.
It did. To some degree, anyway, it did. Yeah.
It was something like it revealed the details of like 90% of transactions or something like that. But Monero fixed it.
It was. I don't think it was like that. I think it was more like you could determine with enough effort a certain percentage of the transactions you could make the connections. But yeah, it was still a security issue that. It was an imperfection that showed it said in its early days.
And they fixed it.
They did.
Versus Bitcoin, which has no desire to fix those things.
It's you know what tells you how well it's been developed. One of the ways is how long has it been around? How long have people using it? And how badly does the government want to crack it.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I know Bitcoin has proven itself, because it's been how long and they haven't cracked it. Obviously, it's not private, but it is. They haven't been able to forcefully take crypto from people, other than if it's on a hosted exchange or something like that, right?
Sure.
So we know Bitcoin works technologically speaking, but Monero works too in that it's been around. It's been around, one of the longest coins that's been around that actually has real good math behind it.
And there's fairly good reason to believe that it was Satoshi Nakamoto's creation. And
Monero?
Yeah, I personally...
Interesting.
I tend toward that theory. Well, the white paper from Monero and the white paper from Bitcoin has some spelling similarities and some grammatical similarities that suggest they may have, in fact, been the same person, which would make sense. Satoshi invented Bitcoin and he was like, oh, I didn't anticipate the creation of these problems, so now we need to create a way to fix those. But whoever created Monero, they did a really good job. And I trust it a lot more than I trust, a Bitcoin mixer to maintain my privacy.
For sure.
I never understood the value of mixers except to create so many transactions that it was difficult, but still not impossible.
I mean, the problem with mixers is, technologically speaking, you could use technology to track it still. It's just a human can't, but that doesn't change the fact that it can be done.
And there's plenty of blockchain analytic firms that do exactly
that.
Right,
exactly.
So how does a mixer help, right?
I think in the earlier days, before we had things like Monero, it made sense. I mean, look. Here's
How
the
long
thing.
has Monero existed, though? I don't think there were
been a
that many
while.
early days between the creation of Bitcoin and the creation of Monero. Maybe
Well,
like 4 or 5
Monero
years.
wasn't around when the original Silk Road came out, so let's go back to that point, right? And I think if you look at it from the perspective of, say, like a drug dealer, right? A drug dealer isn't not expecting to get caught. They're expecting to get caught eventually. What they need to do is extend that time period before they actually get caught. And something like Bitcoin does that, even though it's not anonymous, right? Something like Monero does that, even though it is anonymous, but they still have that risk because they have to send out a package, and that package has a zip code on it. So you, at some point, with enough data, you can start going back and filming, like, drop boxes for where you put the mail in to send out the drugs, and eventually you can figure out who it is. So
But the reality is that the vast majority of cryptocurrency transactions, including Monero, are completely above the board and completely legal. I don't know why you would jump to selling drugs as this thing about cryptocurrency. I just want financial privacy.
Right, and I agree. I'm not trying to. Drugs just is the simplest.
Well, you're playing the media's
easiest
game when you talk about.
It's true.
When you talk about privacy and immediately jump into selling drugs. I just want to buy a cup of coffee without the federal government knowing what I bought and why I bought it and how much I spent
I want to
on
be
it.
left alone. I don't want the government or anybody to see what I do on a daily basis. Like this, privacy is super important to who we are, but the ability to use cryptocurrency has opened up all these doors to maybe what we couldn't have done, and maybe that falls under drugs. But
my only point with that was to say that it's not always about having complete privacy. It's simply about extending the amount of time in which you have privacy for. It's about minimizing the security risks that come with not having privacy.
Sure, I just don't want to jump to selling drugs as the reason for privacy. I always go to the example of having sex in the bedroom.
Very few people are using it for drugs.
I close my curtains when I have sex. And it's not because I'm doing anything illegal. It's because I value my privacy.
Absolutely.
And I feel like most people can understand that analogy. They're not having sex with their windows wide open because they value their privacy. For the same reason, it doesn't matter what I'm doing behind that closed door or behind that closed curtain. I just want the privacy while I do it. To me, that's the approach to take. It's not, well, this person wants to sell drugs. Hey, have you considered Monero? It's got shielded transactions. It's, hey, you value your privacy. Have you considered Monero? And I think that's a stronger, healthier approach.
I prefer Monero, and I've never bought drugs with Bitcoin. So,
if you count caffeine, I certainly have.
All right, let me rephrase that. I've never bought illicit drugs with Bitcoin.
Okay. I've also bought alcohol with cryptocurrency. I've never really bought anything with actual Bitcoin, I think, except maybe some car repairs.
Back in the day, before there were high fees and everything else, I did.
Sure, but the high fees came about in 2017 at the previous peak of Bitcoin, and as far as I could tell, they just never went away.
They've fluctuated. I'm still spending Bitcoin every once in a while for stuff, and the fees sometimes are low, like $1 to $5, and that's still ridiculous. But compared to especially some of the other cryptos, but
It is more coming up from the Cryptocurrency Festival. I wish I could spend cryptocurrency, but hey, I've got gold backs and I've got silver, and I can certainly spend those. You're welcome to join us. We're here until July the 4th. It's Free Talk Live.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 2 up next after the news, here at listen.freetalklive.com.
Hoping to find survivors. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. 11 people now confirmed dead in last week's collapse of a high-rise condo in Surfside, Florida. Family members of some of those missing have gone to the site as 150 people remain missing.
A rabbi who accompanies the relatives to the site said initially when they get there, many of them scream. They scream out the name of their missing relative, and then they cry, and then it's peaceful. One man, his mother is missing, his grandmother is missing, and he says his hope is that they were both asleep at 1:30 in the morning on Thursday when the tower collapsed. Others still have more hope on this day 5. No survivors found since Thursday. Those who have hope include a woman who says she hopes her mother, who's a fighter, is somewhere out there alive in the rubble.
Fox's Steve Harrigan in Surfside, Florida. The cause of the collapse is under investigation. President Biden meeting at the White House with outgoing Israeli President Reuven Rivlin expressing support for peace in the Middle East.
The U.S. fully supports normalization of relationship between Israel and Middle Eastern countries that you're making some headway on.
And the president assuring Rivlin that the U.S. will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon as the U.S. seeks to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal. Newly formed tropical storm Danny is already strengthening as it heads closer to the South Carolina coast. It has top sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, and forecasters warn heavy rains are expected as it moves inland. Light rail service in Portland, Oregon shut down, and summer school bus service suspended as Portland and the rest of the Pacific Northwest deals with record-setting heat.
Dozens of cooling centers have been opened to help the very young, old, and homeless. Temps are expected to be higher today. Then Tuesday, things begin to cool down.
Fox's Dan Springer in Seattle and Eugene, Oregon. The U.S. track and field Olympic trials were suspended for several hours yesterday. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer, but if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
More police patrols in New York's Times Square after a weekend shooting wounded a tourist.
Following the weekend shooting of a U.S. Marine visiting Times Square with his family, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says he's putting more NYPD officers on patrol there. It's part of the Times Square Safety Action Plan.
We have more and more activity out there, more and more jobs coming back, more and more tourists coming back. They have to be safe and they have to feel safe.
Undercover officers may also be utilized in that area. NYPD investigators say the shooting stemmed from a dispute between two groups when one of the men opened fire. The man who was shot is expected to be okay. In New York City, Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The U.S. Supreme Court will not step in a fight in Virginia over bathrooms for transgender students. The case involved Gavin Grimm, who sued over his school board's policy that limited bathroom use to biological gender. That means Grimm's lower court victory stands. A major amusement park chain is offering incentives to some of its employees.
Six Flags Entertainment says it will pay a cash bonus of $500 to $1,000 or more to seasonal team members employed as of July 1st who work through September 6th. In a statement, the company says its team members are its greatest asset, and it wants them to know how much it values their contributions as it ramps up for one of its busiest periods. The company says every Six Flags park has safely reopened, and that is directly attributable to its team members. It's hoping the bonus opportunity will also attract new employees.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Despite a long-held consensus pointing to the mid-20s as the final stage of brain maturation, a new study has found that the adolescent brain doesn't fully form until boys have avenged their father's murder.
New imaging studies suggest that the frontal cortex goes through extensive changes during the period of training when an adolescent boy prepares himself to track down and kill the man who took his father's life. But it's not until the boy stares deep into the murderer's eyes and then stabs him right in the heart that the two lobes fuse into a fully mature brain.
According to Dr. Laurie's findings, the myelin surrounding the teenage nerve synapses develops when boys stake out the home of their father's murderer, put themselves through grueling physical training, and fantasize again and again about how satisfying it will be when he finally makes the bastard who took everything from him beg for his life.
Now, if they let their father's killer slip through their grasp, or if they press the barrel of a gun to the back of his head and then realize they don't have what it takes to pull the trigger, then the amygdala is definitively stunted, and they'll have lifelong problems interpreting emotional information.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live from Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. There's still time if you want to join us. We're here until July the 4th. You're more than welcome to come check it out. It's a good time. It's a beautiful day. Not too hot, not too cold. Exactly what you would expect in the New Hampshire White Mountains. We've been talking a lot about cryptocurrency today, and if you have no idea what we're talking about, then you should head over to bitcoin.com. It's the best place to learn about cryptocurrency. It's got a number of short videos. Click on Get Started at the top, and you'll get taken directly to them. It doesn't take long to learn about this world-changing information, this world-changing technology. But if you already know about Bitcoin, then check out news.bitcoin.com to stay up to date on all the news that's relevant to you, news.bitcoin.com. Now, prior to our discussions of cryptocurrency and Monero and the annoying Bitcoin maximalists that sat here spouting off at the mouth for the better part of the last week, we were talking about Rogers Campground and the prospect of buying it. Now, this Every year this conversation happens.
Well, we can't expect the maximalists that were here to cough up any money for the purchasing of this place. But
certainly not if what they have is Bitcoin and they don't know how to use Bitcoin, which, from everything I've heard and everything people have said, is the case.
But the right people that I saw, I was at a meeting yesterday. They were discussing. I just kind of listened in and just tuned in a couple of times. But they were really talking about the values of the place and how how to filter what comes in and that sort of thing and make sure that the right people are here. And if you purchase, they were
so they're already planning tyranny.
No.
We can control who comes in and who. That's what you just described.
No.
We want to make sure the right crowd shows up. We can't have that Ian Freeman. We've been down that road.
These values that I speak of are they were talking about adopting the Shire Society's values, and that would be like the filter. If you can't adapt to the Shire Society, then you're probably not going to be welcomed here. And it's not like you wouldn't be able to come here for the festivals.
You've
or
still
anything like
already
that.
lost me, man. The Shire Society Declaration is a personal declaration of independence. It's not meant to be a sort of gatekeeping thing to keep people out. And
sure, no, yeah.
To be honest,
I'm actually perfectly all right with the idea of gatekeeping in the sense of can you abide by the non-aggression principle?
Well, the vast
That's a good
majority.
basis, yes.
No, it isn't. The vast majority of libertarians who have attended this festival throughout the last week do not 100% adhere to the non-aggression principle. A great majority of them are classical liberals. Some of them are Republicans, and I don't want to turn those people away simply because we have these new tyrants who want to control who can and can't enter the park.
Okay, we might be talking about two different things.
I
mean, I'm saying while you are here, that is the rule.
Well, that's the rule anyway.
No, it's a.
We don't have to have a sheet of paper and a statement from people saying, "I will not aggress against anyone while attending this festival."
Well, it's just a common thing that we all kind of agree on. So, when we see that out of place, then we question this person or something like that. So we're as a community, we're looking, from the perspective oh, this guy probably doesn't either know or he's obviously violating these principles. And
what about the people who try to come here who have never heard of libertarianism or the non-aggression principle?
Right, it's a good point, actually. All right, so I don't need to go too far off topic of the buying of the place, but I just want to say...
I think it's important. If someone is going to buy the place, I don't want them to immediately turn away everyone who they consider to be, quote, not a real libertarian, because every libertarian I've ever met is the only real libertarian.
Yeah, no, you're right. Or... maybe you're wrong because you're not really libertarian to me.
Right.
Okay. But that's okay. It's okay. I like you, Arya. You can hang out here. I have no problem.
Even though I am the only real libertarian.
Actually, I'm in charge right now. No, but actually, I don't want to go too far off topic on this, but I just want to say that there were some incidents that occurred, some of them major, some of them minor. But the other night was, a major incident. We had, I call them normies from town, locals that came in and just trying to pick fights with people, and they even went to the extent of trying to. There was a pig roast, and they had the money pot. They had the money pot, and they attempted to steal the money pot, maybe thousands of dollars.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so when this happened, obviously they were confronted right away, and then they were pushed back to their vehicles up in the upper parking lot. They never actually parked in the campground. They were just parked up top, right at the beginning entrance where the offices are. And
that's not uncommon. It happens every year that locals end up coming down here and stealing stuff or vandalizing stuff or something like that.
And I think there was they were really well organized. Actually, there was it was like a little gang. They had a hierarchy. They had their little henchmen.
You know what we could do?
Yeah,
we could have police patrolling and call them pork rangers, and they can take care of this sort of thing, and they can keep it all under control.
Well, they did. I didn't sign up as a pork ranger, but as a principal person, when I see something like that, I'm going to confront it.
Well, what we're talking about now is preventing it, right?
Right.
By not allowing these people in the first place, and to do that, you're going to need a security force. You're going to need cops.
Well, look, we can self-police, right?
No, you're going to need a bouncer,
which is a cop.
Yeah, but look.
Well, there's a difference. Well, there's a big difference between having a bunch of pork rangers driving around inspecting people's vehicles and having a dude at the entrance being like,
"No, it's not like
that.
Are
you supposed to be here?"
And the fact that most of the people here are either open carrying or have guns or some sort of protection, that we are self-policing, right? And it just seems like the pork rangers were kind of like the front line to deal with confrontation. And so we want to enjoy camping, right? We want to enjoy being here. But the pork rangers were the ones that would take that bad energy and try to, mitigate it and settle it down, or, eventually even kick them out, because they obviously try to steal money is not a good thing, right? So
right.
But this
well,
brings
when
up the
someone
bigger...
does something that violates the non-aggression principle in such an obvious and clear way, that's fine. But requiring them to agree to it offhand before even entering the park seems to me a bit out of control.
I did read the pork ranger
is,
rules and that sort of thing, and
that sort of thing is why Fork Fest came to exist in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I kind of laughed at those rules for a minute, and I tell you what, so the rules were kind of ridiculous. I laughed at them, and well,
they tend to be, right?
Yeah,
but I mean, give me an example. What were the rules they had in place?
Well, some of the rules they were saying is like if you're taking anything, anything that might be mind altering or anything like that, or maybe alcohol, that sort of thing, is that you're not supposed to open carry. You're not supposed to have your gun on you.
Sure.
So
I mean, that's required by law.
Oh, yes, of course.
But I mean, mind altering also includes, caffeine and nicotine and a wide range of things that aren't eliminated by law.
Right. And this is something that you basically run into anytime that you try to codify human behavior and say, these are the actions that you must not perform, instead of going with, these are the principles, and as long as your behavior is inside these principles, you're fine.
I think the whole reason that Christopher Cantwell got banned in the first place was that he got drunk and tried to run someone over or something like that. Matt's nodding. Is that's correct? Yeah. Well, he deserved to be banned at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yes.
You can't get drunk and try to run people over.
Right.
But as far as I'm aware, there have only been 2 people who have been banned by the Porcupine Freedom Festival. 3, Matt says. I know one is Ian Freeman, one is Christopher Cantwell. I don't know who the other is. Apparently, it was someone who was doing inappropriate things with kids, which is understandable.
I mean,
which, again, 2 out of 3 of those, that's a violation of the non-aggression principle right there.
Actually, someone that I personally knew was, trying to take clothes off someone and touch someone else inappropriately. And I made the effort to go to the Pork Rangers to let them know about this. And they gave him one last warning. Thankfully, he left the next day. And I certainly didn't want, this kind of behavior around me or my friends. So
Sure.
He had to go.
Well, disassociation is an effective tactic. I mean, there's posters all over the campground of an FBI agent's face saying, "Hey, this person is here." Allegedly, I don't know. Everyone keeps asking me, "Do you recognize this person, dude?" I don't know. There were like 60 cops at my house that day,
right?
And he could have been at any one of these 17 properties that were hit.
And what's the chance that they're going to send their undercover guy to your house when they raid you?
Also a valid point, but evidently someone saw him and was like, "Hey, I recognize that guy," and that's a good method of disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, everyone, don't have anything to do with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't always work, because some people do simply act in bad faith. More coming up from Fork Fest. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed. But that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, coming at you from Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. And we've been discussing something that actually circles back to something you and I discussed the other daily, which is that there are very, very few libertarians who I would actually trust to have any level of power of authority whatsoever. Like Job was just telling us about this meeting where people were discussing Rogers Campground, and one of the various, they don't even have the power yet, but they're already planning on ways that they can use this power to shape the festival into being exactly what they want it to be.
No, I think you're missing what I was saying is that, like, you know, look, you should have assimilation, right? If you move into a new place, that you don't want to, you know, piss off the people that are already there. And that's kind of a thing. Like, you should be able to have some sort of what do you call it? Process.
Some sort of citizenship requirement, for example.
No, look, this is
to join
already a private venue.
The Forkfest Society. You must be a Forkfest citizen. Please sign this sheet of paper and file away your $25 registration
if you are stealing people's money and running people over, or really even coming close to running people over, I am very happy with the idea of making sure that those people don't come back.
I am also fine with that. What I'm not fine with is gatekeeping and requiring things from everyone to come in until they've shown that, you know, they are bad actors or incapable of abiding violating the non-aggression principle, allow them to come and allow them to stay.
Well, this is still a private venue, and it will still be a private venue.
Right.
So it's like,
but Crosby doesn't require anyone to sign any kind of BS about how they will or won't do this or that.
No, I understand.
Well, if you that depends on whether you're visiting or staying.
And there is a set of rules.
They do have rules for if you're getting a tent or an RV spot. Like, you have to agree to the rules.
I've agreed to nothing.
Well,
and I don't recall ever agreeing to signing anything saying I will or won't do this in any of the years that I've come here.
Part of the reservation process.
Look, I don't have a site. I didn't get a ticket for PorkFest. I didn't buy a site, but I somehow acquired a sticker and it ended up in my car. Okay, that's literally, I'm literally forking the whole thing, and I've been at PorkFest this whole time. But
well, they don't really care about the stickers on people's vehicles, right? I mean, they don't care how many people or vehicles are at a site. That's not their concern.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They just want to make sure that, you're here at a site that has been paid for.
Right.
So to them, those really don't matter. But, you mentioned these people who violate the non-aggression principle. Sure, throw them out and tell them they can't come back. That's totally fine with me.
And I like the idea of having something in place where you make sure that those people don't come back. So, having a bouncer that, has...
also known as a security guard.
Yeah, sure. Having a security guard at the front that, has a picture of, last year these people came in and tried to steal a bunch of money.
Yep.
I'm perfectly happy with that.
Well, I got.
In theory, I am, but I've also seen how that plays out. That's why the Pork Rangers came into existence in the first place, and then just a few short years later, they were searching people's vehicles.
I did
Power
record.
corrupts.
I recorded the whole situation, so I got them saying each other's names, and I'm sure a little bit of research on Facebook, I can probably find them all. And then at that point, when I identify them by their face on their Facebook, because you're an idiot, you're on Facebook. I'm sorry, you're not you, Aria. You're just the only platform you're allowed to use. So don't take offense to that. But I just think that it's going to be easy to figure these people out.
Sure.
Right, and then we can put them on a list, and then we can prevent them from coming in and causing trouble again.
But that's after they've already done something that violated the non-aggression principle. That's fundamentally different from saying you can't come here unless you formally agree to abide by the non-aggression principle. It seems to me reasonable to just assume that people aren't going to come here and be aggressive because that's 99.99% of all the people who attended.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's sort of that innocent until proven guilty kind of thing.
Sure.
You haven't. We're not doing pre-crime here, guys.
So,
and certainly not all of those kids were causing the problem, but they were all back in the problem. So are they just as much guilty? I don't know.
So prior to the discussion of all of that, you said there was a meeting about actually buying Rogers Campground, and they're actually putting together a plan to make that happen. I still want to express some trepidation about the already lustful gaze upon the power they may be able to wield. It concerns me a little bit, considering they don't even have the power yet. But it's true, someone does need to figure out some sort of way to buy Rogers Campground.
Yes, they are planning on building through a blockchain to get these values set up and to.
So they're going to try to do like Quillcoin, like Quillco.in, which is where they're hey, buy this cryptocurrency, and in so doing you're donating to the Buying Rogers Campground Fund, that sort of thing.
I don't want to speak on that. I don't know exactly on how that's all going to come down, but there are other people you could probably talk to about that. But I think what their main plan right now is to raise the funds. And they were talking about some guy that was rumoring that he was going to buy the place and just let it hand it over and get it to where it needs to be, where we can always be here. So,
well, you can always be here as it is.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we do have people who live here at Rogers Campground.
But we're depending.
Well, and unless this ends up in the hands of someone who doesn't want us here.
Well, even then, I mean. We talked about this previously. I just don't think that's likely. I mean, if you can bring in 3,000 people who are willing to pay for sites or pay for a day pass or whatever, why would you turn that festival away?
I think it's
money
also,
talks.
The festival is one thing, but I think it's beyond that too. Is people want to live here all year. So this is a thing.
I think it's a very small number of people who want to live here.
Well, that may be true, but there's a lot of people already buying the homes here and seasonal homes.
Yeah, that's one of those things that until we have that available, we won't be able to see what the demand in that market is.
But they're already available. If someone wants to buy one of these seasonal homes, they can do that.
Well,
there's none
seasonal,
available.
Exactly, is the point there.
And we can change that from seasonal to all year.
I think there are legal reasons that it's not all year.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But that's the thing is, like, if this place becomes like a living, working business, they would consider using portions of the land for raising animals, farming. So it may shrink the size of what the festival might be, but you're going to have.
We must kill Fork Fest in order to save Fork Fest. We must shrink the size of the festival to save the festival.
And I think that's completely unnecessary because there's a whole chunk of land that's attached to this.
That's right.
Now we're talking about homesteading and raising cows and chickens and stuff. Can someone just buy the freaking campground?
Right. But yeah.
Well, and you brought up a really good point, and I want to see how that quill coin thing goes. See exactly where the upsides are, where the downsides are, because I think that might be the right way to approach this. To have what is essentially like shares in this investment that we keep track of through this, that you donated toward this purpose, and anyway.
And then would there be voting? We're going to determine whether or not we're going to turn this.
These were things that were discussed. These were things that were discussed.
Well, and now you're getting into one of the problems of if this is bought by more than one person. Whereas if one person can manage to buy this thing, then we know exactly what happens. What that person wants.
They were talking about unanimous decisions too. So.
Interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this develops. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
Besides, we just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live with Aria and Lee from PorcFest 2021. PorcFest 5, in fact, celebrating again the successful decentralization of the Porcupine Freedom Festival from being this tyrannical, controlling thing that it was just 3 or 4 years ago into being this open, kind, welcoming festival that just sort of happened down there at the bottom of the hill.
It has just been absolutely beautiful to see.
And it occurs to me as we've been sitting here talking about these things that I probably sound to listeners like I have really extreme trust issues. And that's true. I'm not going to deny it. Whether you're a libertarian or a communist or a politician or whatever, I don't trust you to have any power over me. The number of people who I do trust to be authoritative in one area of my life or another is extremely low. Mm-hmm. To the tune that the only person who I would trust to actually buy this campground and run it in a libertarian way, which ideally would not involve requiring people to abide by this principle or sign that sheet of paper or whatever, would be someone like Mark Edge or Ian Freeman or Ron Paul. That's the level to which I distrust people. It's like maybe those 3 people and not very many others, because I've seen what libertarians do when they have power. No matter how principled they are, PorcFest ended up the way it was because of libertarians. Mm-hmm. So no matter how principled they were, they still ended up with pork rangers that were searching vehicles and whining about not having jurisdiction over PorcFest.
Yeah, we tend not to treat power like the drug that it is. And it is. It is a highly addictive and highly destructive drug.
It is. And I approach any libertarian who wants power with a certain degree of trepidation, more so when they don't even have that power yet, and they're already conceiving all of these grand ways in which they can use that power. Mm-hmm. Like, we can homestead this part of the property, and then the festival will be smaller, sure, but isn't the point of this to buy the property so that we can ensure the continuation of the festival?
Right.
Isn't that what it's about? I have no interest in creating a year-round libertarian society here at Rogers Campground. To me, that's not. You're not going to have very many buyers if that's your sales pitch.
Well, I mean, I think the reason he brings that up is partly just so that it's a greater payoff to the investment, because it is a very sizable investment.
It is, but 1 week among libertarians is not that big a deal. But if you start interacting with libertarians day to day, they will drive you nuts. There is no one I know half as annoying as miscellaneous other libertarians.
Okay, I was going to say miscellaneous ones, sure, I'll give you that one.
There are plenty of libertarians that I love associating with, daily. But there are also many that I'm like, God, I'm glad I only have to see you once a year. So
that's fair.
And I imagine we would run into exactly that if they could 2,000 libertarians living here is such an such an amazingly huge number that it suggests to me the people who are putting this together have no idea of the actual level of perspective they should have. You're not getting 200 libertarians to move here, much less 2,000. You're not going to come anywhere near the 2,000 number, and I don't think you're going to get past 20.
Well, I think that's impossible to tell from where we're at right now, because I mean, the libertarianism, I think, is at the beginning of an explosion as an idea, as something that people are aware of and care about.
It certainly is, but the infrastructure here doesn't support. You have to be able to live a very rustic life just to stay here for 2 weeks out of the year. To stay here for 3 seasons is like, yeah, no, dude. I like my 30-minute long showers more than that. I like my high-speed internet more than that. I like my ability to make a cell phone call a little bit more than that.
Any shower at all is good.
Well, and it's very difficult to gauge what we will be able to do and what we will be able to sell, because, I mean, as we've been talking about, the current ownership of this place is just not especially interested in updating the infrastructure, in finding out what you can do with this property, but is, kind of divesting from it. So
that's why I think a better approach would be to buy the place. I mean, that's going to be square one, right? And then improve the infrastructure, and then maybe then you can talk about having people here year-round or whatever. But at the moment, no, it can't be done, and it's not going to happen. And I'm not going to sink money into a project that is we're going to buy the place, and people are going to move here. No, they're not.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Definitely not worth buying. It would be worth buying as a business proposition, I think, for one individual or a small group, but only to get more events here to make money and to ensure the continuation of Forkfest and Porkfest.
To me, that has to be the goal, and I don't think it's very likely that any new owners would be like, "No, we're no longer welcoming you here at Rogers Campground because you're allowed and you do this and you do that." I was like, okay, I mean, yes, we have a festival here, and festivals tend to be loud, but you're not going to find any festival that cleans up behind itself half as well as Forkfest and the Porcupine Freedom Festival. It's basically just a lot of money coming in and probably very low levels of actually required work among the staff relative to the number of people that are here. Right? We're not a tight... There's been an electrical outlet up there at the RV site next to us that's been broken pretty much since the second day here. No one's complained about it. No one cares. You're not going to get that with your average person.
That's true.
But you do get that at a libertarian festival. I mean, if they needed the electricity, that would be one thing. But if it's just there and there's just like, yeah, we don't care.
People are sharing their electric boxes because a lot of them are broken.
Really? I haven't seen that.
And that is one of those things with a festival is most festivals, when they end, like the people move out and it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Like there's just trash everywhere and broken stuff that people didn't feel the need to drive back with them. And yeah, we just don't operate that way.
No, we certainly don't. And all of the trash here is like cigarette butts and stuff like that getting thrown into the fire pit on the last day. I'm just going to toss a log in there and get rid of all of it because it's all flammable and destroyable. Everything else gets thrown away into trash. One of the issues I had last year was so many people bumming cigarettes off of me and then just flicking the cigarette when they were done with it. It's like, hey, no. Go pick that up and dispose of it in a fire pit or in a trash can or something, or you're not getting another cigarette from me. Last year it was so bad that by the end of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, I required people to tell me in person that they were going to dispose of the cigarette butt properly before I would give them one.
Right.
And this was among libertarians, so that's the level of cleaning up after ourselves we're talking about.
Right.
It's not just, there's some trash there, I'm just going to leave it. A libertarian is just innately going to pick it up and throw it away.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we do all have a sort of sense of responsibility for the sites that we're renting from Rogers Campground, and we want to keep them clean because we want to be welcome back the following year. And that's always been the case here. I don't see any possibility of new owners coming into the place and be like, hey, those people who pay us to do this thing and who clean up behind themselves and who are minimal fuss, we don't want them here anymore.
Well, that is assuming that they know that, though. And if you move into, like, if you buy this property for, whatever, purposes you have, and then you don't actually see us do one of these, then you're probably going to expect that we act like every other festival and just leave it an absolute wreck.
I'm always, thinking about it. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I don't really worry about if somebody buys Rogers Campground. Rogers Campground, at least as it is not going to survive under new ownership without this event.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. Right. So they're like, we're worrying about, what happens if new people come in and they don't want us? They go under, And so that's one of the reasons why I'm pretty confident that no matter who buys it, we're going to be able to continue this event.
I would agree. My only concern with it is that I prefer a ownership that is very light-handed and takes a very light approach in the same way that Crosby does. But we're not guaranteed that with new owners. True. And even if they're libertarians, they may not take things with the light-hearted approach that Crosby does.
That's true.
But, one way or the other, Fork Fest will continue happening, and it is happening until July the 4th this year, so come down, check it out. There's a beautiful fireworks show on July the 3rd. Get down here. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you ever say, I could care less, when you really mean the opposite? You mean to say, I couldn't care less. It's a common mistake. You are judged by how you speak, especially if you're looking for work, with so many more applicants than openings now. But even if you're not, avoiding common misstatements will help you make the most of the dozens of conversations and transactions that crowd your daily routine. So whatever you say, don't say whatever as a single-word sentence. It's the most annoying expression in the American English language, according to a recent poll. And avoid cliches like the plague. Just kidding. But seriously, at the end of the day, you'll want to avoid this scenario, sounding like everyone else. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Free Talk Live.
Our education system is frankly government-run, government-funded, and we're dumbed down.
You could go down the laundry list of the different things that people would admit that the government did wrong or botched up or cost way too much, and it still doesn't have any effect on them. They still just bounce right back and say, well, we need government to do all these things. Well, yes, they make some mistakes. Yes, they spend billions of dollars too much. Sure, they kill innocent people around the world, but we need them.
We have to have them do these things.
I find it quite amazing that, they say the first thing they seem to do is, turn to government. They've got the solution somehow. Yep. Goodness knows they haven't.
That's what they've been programmed to do by the government schools.
Exactly. Brainwashed. Absolutely brainwashed. And they're so dumb about it, they believe it's the case. However, you then ask the next question, if you dare to, is you say, would you trust any politicians? And the first answer is no way.
Right.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live from Forkfest 5 2021 here at Rogers Campground. You can find out more about that at forkfest.party. We're here until July the 5th. Well, July the 4th is technically the end. I mean, it remains to be seen whether or not I'm going to try to pack up and leave early Sunday morning or just pack up and then stay another night. Who knows? I don't know, so why even speculate? But I want to say thank you to David. I'm already off to a good start. David R. Jeffries, who is tonight's amplifier. This means he's a member of the AMP program. Now, AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. It's money that is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live to get us on more radio stations, to help reach a larger audience with our podcasts, our video streams, and all of that awesome stuff. We don't ask that people contribute more than $25 per month, which is what David R. Jeffries has done. He's a platinum level amplifier. All we ask is $5 per month to join the AMP program. It comes with a number of cool little perks like an AMP-only Facebook group, an AMP-only chat on the Matrix server, and even an AMP-only call-in line. So check it out if you value the ideas of liberty. amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com. And I want to say thank you also to Ashredo, who is a silver level amplifier. That means that's the $5 per month that we're talking about. I'm not clear whether or not Ashredo was actually shouted out last night, so I'm doing so now. Thank you to both Ashredo and David R. Jeffries. And I got to tell you, this is taking longer than I would like because, like, every few segments, I'm just constantly receiving text messages and emails and stuff like that that are related to the case against the Crypto 6 to some degree or the other. So it's like they build up over the course of us recording 2 or 3 segments. And then I'm like, okay, I put this off long enough. There's some stuff here I need to deal with. This needs to go to my attorney. This needs to go to my supervisory officer. This needs to be texted to Ian. This needs to be screenshotted and sent to my lawyer, attorney, whatever. It's a very good way to get a headache at a festival that isn't related to loud noise or anything like that. Like, the level, I hate not being able to speak in plain English, but of course that's how the law is. It's written by attorneys for attorneys to be argued by attorneys. And if you think libertarians are argumentative and prone to picking, what's the word I'm looking for?
Nitpicking.
Nitpicking is a good word, but
splitting hairs.
Banal.
Yes,
that's what I was looking for. Yeah, splitting hairs.
Yeah.
But libertarians have nothing on attorneys, man.
Oh no.
Like,
well, so
like
we do all of this
order
for free. They, on the other hand, get paid immense sums of money, and hey, the more they do it, hey, now I can advertise. Look what a great hair splitter I am.
So there's some confusion. I assumed I would be able to make phone calls with Ian. That's not correct. According to the magistrate's order, I can text Ian, I can email Ian, and I can meet in person and have conversations with Ian, but phone calls are not allowed because they weren't mentioned in the actual order itself. And I'm just banging my head on the desk here. I understand. We did not specify. I mean, let's be honest. Ian and I don't talk on the phone a lot in the first place.
What if I go and meet him, and while I'm in the room with him, I call him? Would that be a problem?
I mean, that just sounds crazy because if it says you can talk with him, it sounds like, and you're both allowed to use.
Well, we can
phones,
have in-person contact, we can have email contact, and we can have text messaging contact. And it's not because they're worried we can do something over the phone that we can't do in person or via text or email or anything like that. It's because the order itself specifically does not say via phone call.
So, do you need to get permission in order to hug him, I wonder?
No,
because they didn't say, they said email contact, they said text contact, they did not say physical contact.
They did say in-person contact.
Oh, that.
I mean, that was a
Fair
big
enough.
deal. It was required,
Yeah.
in-person contact. We have to be in physical proximity of each other in order to do Free Talk Live.
Yeah.
So it's all very confusing. Another one of those gray areas is, Freer Talk Live, which is Free Talk Live, just not broadcast on national radio. It's internet only, but it's still Free Talk Live. So is that allowed? Because we're planning to do an internet-only episode of Free Talk Live on July the 5th, and it is an internet-only episode of Free Talk Live. They used to be called the internet-only episode of Free Talk Live until someone coined the term Freer Talk Live, which is just an allusion to the fact that it's not limited by the FCC.
It's all part of Free Talk, what you do at Free Talk Live. So it should be.
But it's not.
It's all the same business activity.
But is it the same?
You, sir, do not think like a lawyer.
Yes. Is it the same legal entity
But
that
it's
is
part
Free
of your
Talk
job.
Live?
That's all part of it.
Well,
right?
it's
so,
well, no. You are thinking like a human. You are thinking like a human being, and that is not what we're discussing.
You're not
here.
restricted to doing radio on Free Talk Live. You're restricted
But we're not
to
doing
stuff
radio
that's-
on Free Talk Live when we do
Right.
the internet-only show.
But when you fix something, which you're also allowed to do as part of your job for Free Talk Live, that's also included,
Well,
right? So therefore, would Free Talk Live
you
be
are
included?
overlooking the legal obsession with names. I mean, so
yes, I don't think Chris is getting the complaint.
I am getting it. I am getting it. But if it's part of Free Talk Live, what you do at Free Talk Live or for Free Talk Live, I would think it would be included.
It is Free Talk Live, but we stopped calling it that and started nicknaming it Freer Talk
So
Live.
go back to calling it Free Talk Live. Problem solved.
But to be fair, the more accurate way of describing it would be Free Talk Live : Freer Talk Live.
Right.
That would be the most accurate way of characterizing it. That's just
it's
not
all
what,
part of Free Talk Live.
But
Free
is
Talk
it-
Live, Freer Talk Live, comma, semicolon, the internet-only episode.
But I got to remind you, Chris, it doesn't matter how you see it. It matters how the judge sees it. It matters how probation sees it. How you see it is irrelevant.
Look, it's not,
I see it the same way you see it. Yes, it's Free Talk
show.
Live.
It's not a different show.
It is an after show of Free Talk Live, but it is still Free Talk Live,
right. It's all part of it. It's all part of the same.
I agree, but you're not thinking
thing.
like a lawyer, an attorney. I mean,
You have to remember that these are people who get more money by coming up with more irritating little things to do that they have to do paperwork
But
for.
who determines what is Free Talk Live? It's you. It's you guys. You're the one who determines what Free Talk Live is. How can the lawyers be the one to decide that? That's literally
Well,
something.
that's what lawyers do in the United States. They're the ones who determine everything.
Yeah, the judge rules what is and is not.
I suspect
And what the definition of is.
I suspect it's all going to come down to how my attorney defined Free Talk Live in his initial motion to allow contact in the first place.
Fair enough.
And I don't know how he defined it without looking at it. And I don't have it pulled up right in front of me. But I do know for a fact that he pointed out that it is broadcast on the internet as well as, on 200 radio stations. But is it still legally Free Talk Live if it's not on those radio stations? I tend to think so.
Was there something in that description that meant it could only be if it was broadcast on
I
radio?
don't know.
I mean,
I'm not an attorney. This is why I sent it to my attorney and said, hey, I need to know.
When you go to courts, they still refer to video recording as tape recording. But if they're doing that and they're not being clear...
Well, you see, if La Cosa Nostra has given you permission to sling pot on this particular corner, you have to think to yourself, are they going to break my kneecaps if I also start selling papers? Which they might.
So it's unclear at best. It is open to the public and is available online at freetalklive.com and on approximately 200 affiliate radio stations. FTL, Free Talk Live, airs for 3 hours, 7 nights a week.
That might be part of the issue there, is because this is airing for more than just the 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yes, but attorneys
have you
love...
not dealt with the
It
laws?
doesn't seem
I know, you're right, but...
It does typically air 3 nights a week, but not always. Some nights it does air for 5 hours. There was one episode of Free Talk Live that went on for like 9 hours.
If you want to start getting petty, you're not actually on 7 nights a week.
No, but Free Talk Live is.
Right, Free Talk Live is, but then if you're on an after show, you're still not on for more than
But he
7
defined
times
Free
free.
Talk Live as a show that airs 7 nights a week, 3 hours a night. That is how Free Talk Live was defined in the motion. It doesn't matter whether I'm there or not. It doesn't say Arya is allowed to do Free Talk Live 3 hours a day.
So the description is effectively wrong then, if that's the case.
It is, but
the core show, that's true,
but in all likelihood, if that's the case, he's going to have to file something to amend the definition of Free Talk Live, which is
I don't
going
know if
to
that'd be worth it.
Free Talk Live is important.
We forgot to include this subsidiary. That is a part of it. Or
it's not a
Or maybe it's
subsidiary.
one of those like you'll just have to do Freer Talk Live during the commercial breaks.
I don't know how it's going to play out. It's all very weird, and I've reached out to my attorney to ask him about that because I don't know the answer here. It's all very confusing, and I'm not the kind of person who should be arguing with federal magistrates about what the word is means.
Yeah.
That's what my attorney is for, and he does a really good job at that. So who knows? It's all very confusing. It's all very headache-inducing as well, despite being here in nature, surrounded by liberty lovers and just beautiful weather. I have somehow managed to develop a severe headache. Dealing with attorneys and legalese and all of this nonsense tends to have that effect on even the most sane person. In fact, the more sane you are, the more headache you will get. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 3 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
Another victim recovered. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
The number of confirmed deaths is 11. Tragically, 11.
Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava as crews continue to search for any survivors of last week's partial collapse of a high-rise condo in Surfside, Florida.
The work that is being done on the search and rescue effort and the service to the families has been made possible by unprecedented, historic cooperation between our local, our state, and our federal partners, as well as our nonprofit and faith groups.
150 people are still missing. Heavy machinery has been brought in to assist crews in going through the rubble. The House will vote this week on establishing a special committee to investigate the January 6th riot at the Capitol.
A select committee would be charged with investigating the facts and causes of the Capitol attack and reporting recommendations to prevent future assaults. A resolution introduced by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the panel would be made up of 13 members, 8 appointed by Pelosi. 5 others would be appointed after consultation with the House Republican leader. The resolution establishing the committee does not set a timeline for the panel to complete its work. Last week, Pelosi announced she would move forward with a select committee after an independent commission was blocked in the Senate. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
A federal judge has dismissed antitrust lawsuits brought against Facebook by the Federal Trade Commission and a coalition of state attorneys general. The judge ruling the lawsuits were legally insufficient and didn't provide enough evidence to prove that Facebook was a monopoly. The ruling dismisses the complaint, but not the case, meaning the FTC could refile another complaint. The FTC and New York's attorney general both say they are reviewing their options. America is listening to Fox News.
Nation. Don't put off creating or setting up a will or trust because you think it's complex and expensive. With trustandwill.com, it's simple, convenient, and secure. For as little as $39, you can nominate guardians for your children, determine who gets your stuff, and plan for future medical care all online. Trust and Will is the most trusted name in online estate planning, having helped hundreds of thousands of people protect their families, assets, and legacy. Don't put this off any longer. Get 10% off plus free shipping at trustandwill.com/Fox.
The leader of North Korea has shed some weight, and that's fueled speculation about his health.
North Korea is going public about Kim Jong-un's health. State TV running images of Kim before and after a major weight loss and has people commenting on it. One resident saying he looked emaciated. Some analysts say it could be due to illness and that his health is important to the functioning of the state. Others think it's simply a propaganda move to show the North Korean leader is sharing the suffering of his people. Kim has noted the current tense situation regarding food supplies after a draconian closing of borders due to COVID-19 plus weather disasters and crop failures. There are reports of widespread hardship among the country's people. Other analysts note most observers felt he needed to trim some pounds anyway. In London, Greg Belcon, Fox News.
Education Secretary Miguel Cardona says Puerto Rico will receive nearly $4 billion in federal education pandemic relief funds to help boost the U.S. territory's fight against COVID-19. Monday's announcement was made during Cardona's official 3-day trip to Puerto Rico. Roughly half of the nearly $4 billion will be released as part of the American Rescue Plan Act. Stay-at-home orders are back in some parts of Australia as COVID cases go up again.
Australia is trying to combat a rash of coronavirus outbreaks. Some 80% of the country's population is now under some form of restrictions, with stay-at-home orders imposed in the cities of Sydney and Darwin.
We are now in an extremely critical period.
Michael Gunner is Chief Minister of Darwin.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
America is at a crossroads on many issues, leading many to ask, is it time for the president to blow the silver horn left behind by the Founding Fathers in case the country ever needed them? Of course, the horn, which has been sitting in the Oval Office since 1817, has never been used by a commander-in-chief, but many Americans think now might be the time to summon our forefathers. Which Founding Fathers would come back?
All of them. Look, when you have a bug problem, you call the exterminator. When you have an America problem, you call the Founding Fathers. They know what to do.
We have to keep in mind the Founding Fathers left us with a warning. If you blow the horn with less than pure intentions, it will turn to tin and can never be used.
But a president has to take risks, have the courage to admit that his administration is not all-knowing, and blow that magic silver horn to summon someone who is.
Yes, but what if we become too reliant on them and they disappear after the next new moon, as was written?
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live from Rogers Campground at PorcFest 2021 in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. There's still people coming and going. It's hard to predict how the festival is going to go, but you can help make it awesome by getting down here. We are here until July the 4th. Chris and I are now being joined by Chad. I assume this is your first PorcFest then, right?
It is,
It
yes.
is. What did you think of it?
It was awesome. The energy here was great. It was meeting a lot of like-minded people for once is really, really a great thing.
And Chris says you're now planning to move, or you're now considering moving to New Hampshire?
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. I caution everyone, that New Hampshire isn't the Porcupine Freedom Festival or PorcFest or ForkFest, whatever you want to call it. There are a lot of liberty-loving people in New Hampshire, but it's not always just a party, and PorcFest tends to be a party. Plus, it's not always this warm. It's usually
Right.
where do you currently live?
I live in Michigan, north of Detroit.
Okay, so
that's
you're-
cold.
Yeah, you're used to it being cold.
It'll be nicer here.
Well, welcome to New Hampshire. How long have you been aware? I mean, what brought you out here this year versus other years?
Well, I wasn't actually aware of PorcFest until earlier this year. I did know about the Free State Project because I worked as a volunteer on the Ron Paul campaign in 2007 is when I first heard about it.
Okay, so you've been in libertarian circles for quite a long time.
Quite a long time, yeah.
But you didn't know about PorcFest.
Not really. I knew about the Free State Project in general, but I wasn't following it super closely. I had a lot of stuff going on in Michigan, so it wasn't really in my radar to move up from Michigan. But
sure.
Well, and this is one of the great things about PorcFest and ForkFest is that people get to come up and meet other like-minded people for the first time, and I mean a lot of people, not just a small group of people, a few people here and there at a political, meeting or something like that. But they really get to interact and realize, hey, even if you don't like one group of libertarians, there's another group of libertarians, and there's somewhere that you fit in.
Well, I will say that the coming to ForkFest or the Porcupine Freedom Festival was definitely what sold me on moving to New Hampshire.
Same here.
I had never felt more welcome or invited in any community ever as the very first time I came to ForkFest, not even knowing people. And within a few days, I was like, yep, this is where I want to be. And the next year, I came for the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and I stayed.
The only thing that kept me was it took a month and a half to purchase a property. I put the bid, I found a property, and a month and a half later, I moved in. But because of the closing, it took about a month and a half to get to the closing date. So, yeah,
well, that's different.
This is an amazing place, and it's like the first time you've come to PorcFest or ForkFest, it just blows your mind.
It does. Did it blow your mind?
Yeah, I'd say so. I didn't really know what to expect, to tell you the truth, but it was better than I thought. I mean, it was great.
Awesome. Glad to hear it.
Culminating in that the burning of the porcupine. I mean, it was just amazing. The sense of community is really cool. And back home, pretty much any of the libertarians I know, I've converted myself.
Well, that's
so
good.
which is okay, but I mean, I don't really, there isn't too much of a community around my area. It's extremely liberal, and I mean, I'm more of a voluntarist than an actual big L libertarian. But
welcome to the club here.
Yeah, most of the people who stayed for ForkFest, which is the after party of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, are going to be closer to voluntarism than they are, big L libertarianism. I'm sure there's still some classical liberals and liberty-leaning Republicans running around, but I think by and large, everyone here is going to be a voluntarist.
Yeah, what's the expression? 6 months in New Hampshire, you move as a libertarian, 6 months you're an anarchist or something like that.
Well, they do call the Cheshire County region the land of pumpkins and anarchists, for whatever that's worth. So what was it that made you aware of the PorcFest festival?
I guess it was just the internet. I don't remember specifically where, but I mean, just because I mean, I read the news and stuff a lot. On the internet, I'm all over kind of voluntarist and libertarian type stuff. So it just came up that there was a festival. I actually heard about it in winter, that they actually had it during all the lockdowns last year, and I was very disappointed that I didn't realize, because I couldn't do anything last year really in Michigan, and it would have been really nice to come out. So I bought my ticket back in like February, I want to say, to come up here because I knew I wanted to this year.
We did indeed have it last year, and there were a few people who actually wore masks. There weren't very many. I think there were like 3, like some college students who were here doing a paper, and then one ultra liberal dude who used to be a libertarian.
I thought it was a few libertarians that were wearing masks, because there are at least a few libertarians wearing masks. But I kind of half expected them not to show up to this event because there's so many people here,
like the Jackie Perry types that are all about the COVID-19.
Not that crazy, but yeah.
I haven't seen one this year.
No, I have not seen. The only one I saw was when someone put that one on to do one of the rants on Saturday night, and their rant was about masks. Although I wanted to dock them points because it honestly did make it harder to understand what they were saying, because they had a freaking piece of cloth over their face.
We do have a few libertarians that are definitely libertarian, like Dave Ridley, who will wear a mask, at least if he's inside. So, but outside he doesn't wear a mask.
Is that by choice or because?
By choice. By choice, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'm certainly not against masks, I think that if they were worn properly and people washed their hands correctly, they probably would help. I'm against mandates.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was about to say. I wore a mask for a little while, very early on, just in case. And, I've never been anti-mask, but I have been anti-government mandating masks.
Well, we had it easy here in New Hampshire. Things weren't as easy in Michigan, from what I've heard.
No, definitely not. We've had mask mandates for a long time, and the state isn't still fully opened up till July 1st.
Wow. Really?
So we're still on we have restrictions for capacity in buildings and stuff like that still. It is open more than it was, where you're just not allowed to do anything. Being a restaurant owner, I know other restaurant owners in the area, and we kind of had some speakeasies going on so we could still socialize, where it was just coming through the kitchen, in the back door,
awesome.
So we can actually hang out and socialize and not go insane sitting in our house. So
we threw an awesome party on New Year's Eve that had something close to 100 or so people at it, out on the main highway too, and it was quite a good time.
Awesome. Oh, right, yeah.
And this was in the midst of the mask mandates and all that. And we just flaunted our refusal to obey.
It's interesting,
but it's New Hampshire, so that's kind of.
There's been 2 things in the last 10 years that we've seen an increase in people moving to New Hampshire over. One of them has been the masks and COVID-19 and the government's reaction to it. And the other,
but Sununu's reaction was almost as bad as any other governor.
It was, but the difference is that in New Hampshire, we're making progress, and people understand that coming together can change things. And if we're all spread out, it doesn't change. Sure, some states are better on masks, but they're not better on other things like firearms, or they're not better on, things like weed or whatever. You don't get that mix where everything is free. We're working to total freedom, as opposed to, freedom on one area but not another area. You know what I mean?
Well, we have something like 200 representatives in the New Hampshire State House now, so hopefully we will actually at some point see some pushback against Sununu.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're up to 200 now? I didn't even realize that.
It's 80 libertarians, solid libertarians as representatives.
I'm talking about the New Hampshire Liberty Caucus. It's something like 200
I'm sorry.
members.
Okay.
I don't think we have any registered libertarians in the State House, but we certainly have plenty in the Liberty Caucus, and a lot of those.
We do have people who signed the Free State Project statement of intent and moved to New Hampshire who are representatives. There's 30 of those this year. It's up from 20, and there's about 80 libertarians total. So basically, people who moved but didn't sign the statement of intent because they moved for the greater migration, or they're people who lived here already who were libertarian and have gotten more active as a result of people.
See, I prefer the way I say it, because it took a lot less time to just say we have something like 200 libertarians in the State House, and as far as I'm aware, that's an accurate statement.
I've heard 80, but 200. If we had 200, that's half. We should almost be in control of the state at that point.
Well, have you not seen the budget and the freakouts that happened as a result of the budget that Republicans in the House put forward? I guess not.
I mean,
they're calling it the most extreme budget in New Hampshire history. It's all about public school systems and things like that. I think you probably just haven't looked into it since the last election.
There's some Republicans and Democrats that might lean libertarian, but they're not.
Well, I'm not saying they're registered libertarians. We don't have any that are registered
But that's
libertarians.
because the state doesn't allow it effectively.
Not anymore. Well, Chad, thank you so much for joining us. If you make the decision to move, keep in touch. We're always going to be here every single year. Be sure to come back next year. It's Free Talk Live.
Thank you.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com. Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999. And ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from ForkFest 2021. You're more than welcome to join us. We're going to be here until July the 4th, June the 28th through July the 4th. Those are the dates for ForkFest 2021. Well, things are great here at Rogers Campground. It's almost idyllic, one might say, but that's not true elsewhere. Evidently, Joe Biden. You know, I've been arguing for years that if the powers that be want gun control, then they put a Republican into the Oval Office. If they want war, they put a Democrat there. This has sort of changed with the Biden administration because he's evidently talking about, dropping nukes on American citizens or something. I haven't heard that exact thing, but we've been here at ForkFest, so we haven't been watching the news, but those are the things making the rounds in libertarian social media. Is stuff about, it's weird that Biden has now twice mentioned dropping nukes on American citizens.
Well, if he's going to do it, this is a great time to do it because we're not in the populated areas, and I presume he's talking about doing it in unpopulated areas.
Well, I don't know that there's ever a good time to drop a nuke, but
yeah, I'd agree with that.
I mean, certainly they could have taken out a lot of libertarians if they had hit Rogers Campground, but I don't think there's a realistic chance of Joe Biden dropping nukes. I think he's just Joe Biden. He's old and senile, and he runs off at the mouth. I think that's really what's going on here. But he does cause other problems. U.S. military action against 3 facilities along the Iraq-Syria border resulted in a number of deaths. And that's what I've always argued. If the powers that be want an expansion of war, they're going to elect a Democrat. And this is what surprised me so much about the Trump administration is that it's horrifying to even think, but the reality is that Trump was the most peaceful president we've ever had. And he gladly...
As long as you weren't a Mexican immigrant.
I'm talking in matters of war.
Fair enough.
Right, not immigration. I mean, but he wasn't really any worse or better than Joe Biden or Barack Obama regarding administration. And look, I hate saying anything positive about Donald Trump, but he didn't start any new wars.
This is true.
And that alone, that shouldn't be the minimum bar on being the peaceful president.
Yep.
But we are in a state where it is.
I'm not pro-Trump, but I say he does deserve some credit for that.
For that alone. I mean, he didn't close Gitmo. He didn't pardon Ross Ulbricht. He didn't pardon Julian Assange. He didn't do a lot of the things that, a libertarian would have done because Donald Trump wasn't a libertarian. But he did, and he didn't withdraw from Iraq. He made a great big statement about wanting to withdraw from Iraq. But, of course, the United States still has troops in Iraq. And now they're expanding their operations. President Joe Biden directed attacks against 3 militia facilities used by several Iran-backed groups engaged in unmanned aerial vehicle attacks against U.S. personnel and facilities in Iraq. The ones that, Donald Trump supposedly withdrew were attacked by these supposed Iran-backed groups because Joe Biden is going to create a war with Iran because that's what Democrats do. The strikes took place at approximately 6 p.m. yesterday. That would be Sunday. The action, which Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby described as defensive, killed between 4 and 7 militiamen. Now, isn't it amazing that the United States military could attack 3 facilities and then somehow call it a defensive action? I don't think they know what the word defensive means, but that's obvious because Americans don't have a military budget. They have a, quote, defense budget. But they characterize these as attacks. President Joe Biden directed attacks. And then they go, but they're defensive. Now, the last I checked.
There's nobody invading the United States. How can you be a defensive move?
Well, they said that they attacked U.S. personnel and facilities in Iraq.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be there in the first place. It's not our territory. We don't own that land. It's not within our jurisdiction.
I agree entirely, but what concerns me more is how anyone is allowing them to characterize an attack as a defensive action when the words are almost antonyms.
It might be if there's an invading force, but they weren't invading. It's their land.
Then it's not an attack. It's a defense. It's like you don't attack a defending force. I mean, an invading force. You defend against them.
Fair enough.
2 Iraqi militia officials told the Associated Press that the first strike against a weapons storage facility killed 4 militiamen. But Britain-based group, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, reported the number was at least 7. So they don't even know how many people they killed because they just started chucking rockets at people and seeing what happened. A U.S. defense official with knowledge of the strikes told Fox News that he did not expect a lot of casualties because of the time of the strikes. It makes me want. Was the point of this just to blow up some stuff to justify the building contractors that are in Iraq?
They've got expiration dates on those missiles, so they have to use them before they go bad.
Good point.
This is their excuse.
And now they used up some missiles that were going to go bad, and now they get to pay Lockheed Martin to build them some new ones.
Yep, it's all about the profit, man.
And the defense budget just gets ever larger. At least one facility, quote, used by Iran's militia forces to launch and recover drones was destroyed. Recent strikes by the crew drones have targeted Americans in Baghdad and Erbil in northern Iraq, places that Americans shouldn't be unless they're visiting in the first place. I mean, we certainly shouldn't have a military presence there. And there are still people on the internet who believe to this day that President Obama withdrew troops from Iraq, or he ended the war in Iraq. There are still Democrats who believe that, even though Trump then came along and said, we're going to withdraw the troops from Iraq. And now we have Republicans who believe that we no longer have troops in Iraq. It's amazing. This war has lasted 18 freaking years. The people now old enough to join the military were born after this war started. And that's horrifying.
And remind me, why did we get into Iraq in the first place?
Well, they said that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction.
And were any weapons of mass destruction ever found?
Of course not, because there never were any.
You're telling me the government lied to me?
They lied, and they have perpetuated a lie since in order to justify.
Can't be. My government wouldn't lie to me.
Well, why did they invade Afghanistan? They knew Osama bin Laden wasn't there, but yet they did. And 20 years later, there are still American soldiers shooting at people in the desert of Afghanistan. Why? And nothing says privilege more. Liberals love talking about how privileged people are. Nothing is more privileged than having a presidential election come and go in the midst of a war that has lasted for 20 years and it not even be brought up once in any of the presidential debates.
I'm still amazed. They kill 2,000 of our people effectively, and we go in and bomb them, and millions die. Is that really the best approach?
Well, certainly not, because that's how you create more terrorists, right? You bomb a kid's, you kill a kid's father, or you bomb a wedding, or Doctors Without Borders hospital, and it tends to make other people angry. One might even say it radicalizes them to take vengeance in the same way that the United States decided the best way to take vengeance for 9/11 was to invade Afghanistan and Iraq, two countries that by and large didn't have anything to do with it, while Pakistan, who funded a large part of the operation, remains untouched. And in fact, that was where Osama bin Laden happened to be. Yeah. But of course, there's no war with Pakistan. Not that I want a war with Pakistan, but it would have at least made more sense.
Definitely.
More coming up from the peaceful land of Rogers Campground. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Well, a broken clock is right twice a day, and the weather people finally got it right. It did, in fact, rain today. Yep. But it's already starting to taper off a bit because that's what it does here at Rogers Campground. It rains like hell for like 4 minutes, and then the sun comes back out and it's a beautiful day again. It's a beautiful day right now, though. This is the most comfortable temperature I have felt in the 8 days that I've been here. Right now, it feels absolutely wonderful. Now, I forget entirely what we were going to discuss. I had a topic in my head and everything, and then it started raining. The squall opened up, and it started pouring. So, I don't know. I'm joined now by Lee, and we're still here at the campground. It's still an amazing festival, and there's still people to talk to, and people are out there arranging that for me because I'm not really the extroverted type to go out there. I think it'll be easier next year for me to do that. Not because I'll be more extroverted or anything like that, just because, people will know me and recognize me as, hey, you're the Free Talk Live person.
Right.
So, but, that's not the case now. Like, Mark was able to do this by running around in a freaking king costume. And, he wasn't very successful. I've been about as successful as Mark was with tracing down people for interviews. And I tend to think that's because Mark was, running around in a crown dressed like a king. Yes.
It is the crown. It brings the power. Or at least what the heck is that guy doing? I
don't know, man. I got to tell you, if I didn't know who he was and he came up to me dressed like that and went, want to be on my radio show? I would have been like, okay, you're a lunatic. No, thank you. Probably don't even have a radio show. It's just going to be you talking into a microphone in a public bathroom somewhere, calling it live radio or whatever. I mean, but hey, it was...
I think you're unaccustomed to the idea of mascots.
Well,
it's just good branding.
Well, that may be, but there's still a lot of people to talk to, still a lot of people to hang out with, and more are coming, more are expected. Bob, a friend of the show, actually just arrived, and that's where Chris ran off to. It's curious that he chose not to come to any of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. I don't know if that's because he had other stuff to be doing or whatever. I mean, there's thousands of things that I could and probably should be doing right now, but Free Talk Live is more important to me than those things, so here I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't get why people go to just Forkfest and not Porkfest, but it does happen.
It does. I get it. The environment, the social structure of it is very, very different. Like, the Porcupine Freedom Festival is very family friendly. Every single day of the week, you've seen nothing but just kids running around, a lot of them at the park, or just coming and going. There are significantly fewer children here today, and that's because Forkfest is, by and large, a party.
Right.
I mean, we work here, and vendors work here, but most people don't.
Well, no, I'm going to have to push back on you there. Like, everyone has a side hustle here. I mean...
I guess that's partially true, but... I don't know about everyone.
Well, it's hyperbole, sure. But, I mean, there are just so many people that will, sell some food, sell some beads, sell a T-shirt, sell, just any kind of a thing. Which, I mean, festivals are expensive. Fun, but expensive. And you actually get a chance to recoup some of the cost of being here if you've got a side hustle.
That's true, and that was one of the things I learned my first year here is that if you're not doing anything to earn money, you are just bleeding money.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of ways to mitigate that. One person, a lot of kids in particular, prevented their own bleeding of money because someone was, providing them with pamphlets and maps and schedules and stuff like that.
Thank you, Mo.
Hey, yeah, run around and sell these, and the kids got to keep all the money, and it was great. And even though I had no need whatsoever, I mean, they would approach me and be like, hey, would you like to buy a free schedule for $1? People would do it. Because it's a kid and it's $1, and why not? Here's $1.
Well, and I thought that was just a brilliant way to get kids used to the idea of market forces. Because, okay, what do you charge for it? Whatever you want. And if you charge $5 for it, you might sell one. But are you going to miss out on more than 5 sales from charging 5 times what the people around you are?
So I never thought about that. The kids could charge whatever they wanted, couldn't they?
Yes.
I mean, most of them went for $1, and that was smart.
That seemed to be the market price, and I mean, even
the market price
psychologically,
for a free schedule,
right?
But I mean, it was because they were kids. If an adult tried that, they probably wouldn't.
Well,
be
and
as
so
successful.
that's the thing. So, of a part of this being decentralized to the degree that even Porkfest itself was. Porkfest did nothing to build this schedule. That was Mo's idea entirely. He's the one that got the information together, got the format, got the layout, did the printing, all of that, as just a good faith and goodwill service to the children to say, hey, this is what market forces are like.
Did Porkfest even use the Hoova app this year?
Nope.
I mean, they normally promote that. They didn't even use it.
That was the name of it. Yeah, no, they didn't use it at all.
That's a interesting change. I didn't think about it until right now. Of course, last year Forkfest used Eventify, but the customer service rep with whom I was dealing last year became difficult to reach. So I didn't look into this year. Plus, I mean, with everything that happened with the Crypto 6, it isn't as feasible currently for me to throw $600 at this fun software for me to mess with and not really do anything actually productive with. So I didn't pursue it, but maybe it'd be worth talking to the Porcupine Freedom Festival people about, splitting the costs of using Hoova next year.
Yeah,
that way it can be shared both by Forkfest and the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Yeah, there we go.
So that's something that could be done. There's all sorts of things that could be done, and already we're in the planning stages for next year. Well, not planning because no one plans Forkfest. They just sort of do what they do, and Forkfest is the result of that. But there's already discussions about, what can be done better, what can draw more people in, and, how can we have a better time?
Right.
Because that's what Forkfest is.
We don't yet have a consensus on the dates and things like that for next year is what it is.
Well, there's never a consensus on the dates. The dates are going to be whatever. The dates are going to end up being whatever I say on the air they are.
There's never,
to be honest,
there's never a complete consensus, but there is always disagreement about the specific dates. And
sure.
So
I mean, to some people, Fork Fest this year started on like June the 15th or the 17th.
And nothing's official, right? So it is kind of what you make of it.
It's just a matter of these are the dates that we promote on Free Talk Live, and that's probably going to be.
And that tends to be what people come up for because. Yeah, but it's the biggest promoter.
But as you pointed out, it's not official. There's nothing official about it. People can declare Fork Fest to be whenever they want it to be.
And they do.
I think last year it persisted for like 2 weeks after I was back in Keene and back doing my normal thing there, and people were still up here having Fork Fest. I was like, okay. I mean, Fork Fest sort of continued year-round with Dr. Lupo and some others who decided, hey, we're going to just get some property here.
Right. Almost.
Yeah,
I said almost.
There is definitely an echo of this Freedom Festival that does continue almost year round.
And it's surprising to see how it bleeds out into the nearby town of Lancaster, which I didn't know this, but one of the girls at the gas station that I've been frequenting to buy my cigarettes, she came to the Porcupine Freedom Festival for a few days this year, and she wasn't a libertarian, but now she kind of is.
Nice.
So I mean, it's just fascinating to see how just good vibes, positive vibes, can result in positive changes, not just here at Fork Fest, but throughout the world.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about Fork Fest and Pork Fest is it gives people an opportunity to see what it means to be a libertarian. Like, what does that really mean? It's like I wasn't sure the first time I came up here, and at first it was like, oh, there's some people who clearly aren't libertarian here, and I was a little confused. But then as I talked to more and more people, I realized, 99% of the people are. It's that 1% that aren't. And yes, I am a libertarian, And then I moved.
It was definitely different last year because I know for a fact there were a few liberals running around last year, a few actual Democrats.
Always a few that come up that don't understand what it means to be a libertarian, and
there's a lot of disagreement about what it means to be a libertarian, but I'm referring to people who are like registered Democrats and who don't identify as libertarian at all.
There were people who came and wrote Trump in graffiti on one of they vandalized.
Well, there were some trolls. I don't want to attribute them as having attended Pork Fest or Fork Fest or anything like that.
But the point that I was making is just that there's definitely people here who are not us.
Yeah, and
I'm just glad to see that it's having this successful of a relationship with the town, because that I think is a very important thing.
Absolutely. I mean, we want the town to like us for sure.
Exactly.
More coming up from Fork Fest. This is Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. PorcFest 2021 happening until July the 4th. You can still get down here and join us. It's always a great time, and I'm thrilled to be here. And other people have finally arrived. Now, without saying his name, because I don't think we've ever really talked about him on the air or gotten his permission or anything like that, did he consciously choose not to attend the Porcupine Freedom Festival? Or is
I'm pretty sure he's boycotting the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Oh, from the
over past years and FSP Incorporated.
Well,
I will maintain this chip on my shoulder no matter how much you bury the hatchet.
He will absolutely be the last person to continue the boycott.
Okay, well, I'm not boycotting them. I actually talked to Dennis Pratt, the person who organized it this year, pretty extensively. I thought that there was still some disagreement or some ill will between Carla and myself, but that got pushed down. I mean, we buried that hatchet Saturday, as long as I don't send her any more donations from the Reformed Satanic Church.
You know what's interesting is the people who are more directly impacted by what happened actually seem to be the most agreeable and willing to let things go. You know, it's kind of interesting. It seems to be other people that are more angry about the whole situation than the people directly affected.
Well, I know that Ian and myself are huge advocates of forgiveness.
Absolutely.
And that probably plays a role in it. Like, okay, she was upset. I forgive her for being upset. And I recognize that what I did was more than a little bit trolly. And you know, I knew it was probably going to upset her.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing
I was
is,
not an angel in this by any means.
Behind the scenes, Ian was actually encouraging people to go to the Porcupine Freedom Festival the year that he was banned. Mm-hmm. That just goes to show. Now, they broke up their Free Talk Live and the Porcupine Freedom FSP Incorporated's relationship. That still broke up. But that wasn't his doing, really. That wasn't Ian's doing. That was their doing. And despite that, despite being banned, Ian was still encouraging people to go.
Because, I mean, look at the result. People come here and they go, man, I want to move here. It's important. Exactly. I mean, if you want people to move to New Hampshire, you have to introduce them to the people of New Hampshire, to the liberty movement that is here in New Hampshire.
There's still ads running that promote the Porcupine Freedom Festival, I believe it is, or the Free State and the Free State Project, I believe, on FTL, even though the paid advertising, I believe, is gone.
Well, that's because it's a good idea and we want to see it happen.
Right, exactly.
It's not because, Free Talk Live wants to make money from the Free State Project or anything like that. We want people to move here if they love liberty, because this is the best place to be for people who love liberty.
It is.
Yeah, and there's definitely something about getting people to experience the condensed distillate of liberty that is the Porcupine Freedom Festival that, it whets their palate for like, okay, well, if I can even have a taste of this year round, if I can have, these kind of people to talk to interact with, to do business with, okay, it's worth that investment of getting here and getting things set up.
Yep. Yeah, these are great events. They sometimes some years, they might not be as well organized, and there might be some little disagreements. But at the end of the day, they're attracting more people to New Hampshire, and that's ultimately what we're all fans of. So.
Right, because, the more people that we get to New Hampshire, the more we can impact the political landscape and hopefully put an end to some of the tyrannies that we've seen. And, ideally, secede from the United States, but that's far in the future. But I think it needs to happen.
New Hampshire, we can control New Hampshire, or remove the authority of the state to control New Hampshire at a state level first, before we start talking about something even more fanciful. But I totally agree with you. I think that is one of the objectives of every person who moves. It's like I think a lot
destroying
of people
the
realize
ability of the state of New Hampshire to control us is not really going to make a difference in our lives.
Well, no.
Whereas the federal government's ability to control us.
Just take the Crypto 6, for example. The New Hampshire Banking Commission is on record saying that, the Bitcoin vending machines are definitively not money transmission.
So the reason I would say I don't think you're right. We'll never be totally free within the jurisdiction of the federal government, right? But 80% of the people who are in cages because of state governments, and it's 30% for federal. So we actually have a huge amount of difference to our freedom.
And a big part of this also is freeing New Hampshire from the federal government, and not just through direct means, but through the federal government says you will get this money if you comply with these terms.
And we already, New Hampshire already, even before the Free State Project, before the migration movement, was doing a little bit of that. That we don't have a seatbelt law in New Hampshire, and
it's one of 3 states that don't require people to wear helmets for motorcycles.
Right. And New Hampshire gave the finger to the federal government, saying we're not going to accept your bribe to their kickbacks, because that's what the federal government does. They give you kickbacks in order to pass laws that they themselves don't have the authority to pass under the Constitution.
Right. Is New Hampshire the only state that doesn't require seatbelts?
I know New Hampshire is, I thought it was, but I know New Hampshire is one of the few that don't require car insurance.
I think it might be the only one that doesn't require car insurance. I'm not totally certain, but it is so rare. And it's just all of these things that accumulated over time that became normalized that New Hampshire just didn't really bother with.
Yeah. There's certainly a strong level of distrust of the federal government that was already here in New Hampshire prior to the Free State Project.
New Hampshire is definitely one of the better states overall, and it just happened to be a optimal state for the migration movement, for the whole Freedom Project. And the population size was right. It was small enough. It was in a small enough area, that it was contained. It had a huge state house, which means it's easier to get people elected. It just had all of the right conditions. And it happened to already be one of the better states.
Yeah, it's already leaning very strong libertarian.
I wouldn't call the locals libertarian, but they certainly leaning in that direction more so than other states.
Well, that's why I said it was leaning libertarian, and I didn't call the locals libertarians. But
it is definitely libertarian by New England standards. That's a fact.
Oh, for sure. It's got. If you compare it to like Massachusetts or
New England has some of the best and worst states in the nation.
I'm not sure how many other New England states would qualify as being the best states other than New Hampshire. As far as I can tell, it's pretty much it's the odd one out.
Yeah. New Hampshire is pretty unique.
Yep. And it is important to keep, not just to expand this resistance to subtle federal control, but to keep going what was already here in those terms.
Certainly.
And it is absolutely the case that we will either hang together or we will be hanged separately.
Definitely.
And that's what we want. We want to get more people here so that we can push back against some of these insane federal regulations that, they use state governments to push down onto actual residents of New Hampshire. We've been fortunate in that there isn't a seatbelt law or anything like that. Of course, I still wear my seatbelt if I'm getting on the highway to do 65 miles an hour or whatever.
I always wear my seatbelt.
But
sometimes things are smart to do, and you don't need a government to oppress you in order to want to do them.
And Sununu actually admitted this when he lifted the mask mandate. He was like, "Hey, yeah, we don't have to tell people to wear masks in order for them to do the right thing and wear masks." Okay.
Well, gee, if only you'd thought that.
Yeah. So where was that mentality 6 months ago when you implemented this mask mandate? But suddenly it was politically expedient for him to make that message. Okay, but that message was still true 6 months ago. We don't need a law telling us to wear seatbelts.
There was definitely resistance, and there would be far less resistance if it hadn't been mandated.
Absolutely. But I mean, a lot of businesses had mask mandates and stuff like that in place prior to the actual statewide mandate or to the one in the city of Keene.
Yeah, most of the people I interacted with for most of the time that the mask mandate was in place, weren't wearing masks. Now, that wasn't necessarily true probably of especially the town in general, but my experience was a little atypical and unique. That's what I was trying to get to. But that's because I'm around so many other like-minded individuals. You just don't find that outside New Hampshire.
I saw a lot of people voluntarily and still voluntarily wearing masks, and I don't shame them for that. I wouldn't want to do it.
We got a couple of libertarians that still are wearing masks, so
yeah.
We don't all have to get along and agree on everything, to agree that mask mandates or government mandated anything is wrong, morally wrong.
Right. Most of the people I see on motorcycles are wearing helmets, even though there's no state requirement forcing them to.
In New Hampshire, anyway.
Yeah. They just choose to do it because, hey, I'm driving this death rocket at 60 miles an hour. If I wreck, I'm going to die. I should probably protect my skull.
Yeah, we don't have to agree on how risky a behavior is in order to agree that each of us needs to determine what our level of willingness to take those risks are.
And New Hampshire already understands that to a large degree, and bringing more libertarians here just makes that more likely to actually come to fruition and lead to the repealing of some of these laws that the federal government has managed to get imposed here.
I was talking with someone last night, and he had gone to the Manchester airport and was talking to the TSA agent of all people, and he's wearing this "Live Free or Die" shirt, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm a local, and I love the Live Free or Die thing." And it's like, you know where you work, right? But still, it really does illustrate the point that even the TSA agent here is like, "Yeah, man, live free or die."
It's a beautiful place to be. You got to get down here. Come get a taste of the freedom. We're here until July the 4th. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites.